Here we go.
G'day fans and welcome to what is known around the planet as good old Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. Yay team for all you Star Wars nerds out there. If you're not at a trivia quiz at a pub tonight, hopefully you're joining us. Mr. Aaron, how you feeling on what is known as Star Wars Day?
Well, I was rushed off my feet today. Like everyone came into the shop, including you.
I did actually. I actually popped in and made my presence felt, feeling a bit Star Wars-ish. Now, of course, if you're a true Star Wars fan, May the 4th is not actually Star Wars Day. May the 25th happens to be that, but you know, whatever. And of course, tomorrow is the even bigger day, a Revenge of the 5th, which I actually absolutely think is fantastic. So there you go. Now, here's one for you kids. Very, very important. I've got to get this out of the way before we get anywhere else, right? People are joining us right now, which is absolutely fantastic. Now, you might remember Aaron was crook as a dog last week. This time, he's actually feeling much, much better. So much better, in fact, that before we went on air, he actually even said that he himself, yes, Aaron, am I put the right direction? Yeah, that's right. Aaron right there is, in fact, a cool cat. How good is that, Aaron, the cool cat? Check him out. What do you reckon, old son?
Well, it's cool for cats. But no, I'm a cool cat. What can I say?
Absolutely true. Now, last week we had an episode about cars, and a lot of people wrote in and said that they really enjoyed it. We're talking about cars and collectibles and all the rest of it in pop culture and sci-fi and whatever, all like that. But of course, we're not doing part 2 this week because this time we're doing good old Star Wars. May the 4th. It's a Star Wars thing, and with a bit of luck, fans out there, with a bit of luck, there will be not one Docky Who reference anywhere. Oh, hang on.
You just made one.
That's a great joke. I got to absolutely love it. Gavin's gone meow. I no idea what that's all about. Because you're a cool cat. Yeah, exactly right. So there you go. Now, of course, if you stroke him, does he then purr? That's a question you need to say for yourselves, kids. So what do you reckon, old son? Would you do so?
Anyone who wants to come into the shop and test out that theory, quite happy for you to do that.
Fantastic. Now, Christy's back with us after missing, I think, last week, which is fantastic. Good old Mick. He's hopefully back from Thailand and his journey overseas, which is awesome. Good old Greg is here. Carol from Ballarat and all the rest of it. It's a cold night outside, kids, so I hope you're all looking after yourself. May the force be with you. Very, very cool, Mr. Colin, and it is particularly groovy. Now, a couple of exciting things are actually happening. Good old Greg King. No, there is no Docky Hugh in this episode, Greg, so just deal with it, old son. Now, the cool thing is, we actually have some special stuff in the episode tonight. Now, the key thing is, I keep saying that, in the Greg King's Cheaper Things, an item did actually turn up, believe it or not. And should I mention the joke now? Referring to Greg King's things, if they look at Aaron's picture over there, can they see one of the highlighted items that turned up only a couple of weeks ago? There you go. No, he's not pointing to his ear. Hey, look at that. I think good old Aaron's got the Maltese budgie sitting on his shoulder. It looks a bit actually wrong from this angle. So, what do you reckon, old son?
Yeah, well, it looks even smaller because it's sitting on the shelf behind me, but we'll take a look at that later and some of the other stuff that turned up, which is pretty cool.
Very cool. And later on, we've got a very special announcement about a couple of shows that are coming up, something that's happening next week, but something that is also brand new. We're going to announce it here tonight, a brand new show for good old Sci-Fi Zone, all right? And it's got some of the coolest things ever. Aside from Aaron, of course, being a cool cat that he is. So you'll have to make sure you stick around for that, kids. But it's our big Star Wars episode for tonight. But before we do that, believe it or not, now, last week we had somebody come into the store who was a writer of the week, which is absolutely fantastic. And just not long after that, we actually had another regular viewer turn up. And that, of course, was Mr. Thomas Hill, who, with a bit of luck, is actually watching us this evening. And not only did Thomas spend 3.5 hours getting to the store, no, he didn't come from another planet. He actually had to come from Trafalgar Way, 3.5 hours. But he actually bought the Maltese dragon, which is right there. So what did you tell us all about that, Mr. Aaron?
3.5 hours. Now, that's poor value. But, yeah, it was good to see him. I think it was the first time we've met him in person. He came down and spent not as much time as I would have expected for such a long journey, picked up the Maltese dragon and buggered off again.
Now, the funny thing is, the moment he walked in the store, after saying g'day fans, the first thing he wanted to do is look at Greg King's cabinet, his trophy cabinet, effectively. So that's how much of an influence Greg King has had on the viewers of this show. And the good old Thomas is actually watching. So good on you, Thomas. Absolutely fantastic. He was honoured. Oh, yeah. Thomas.
And I forgive him for not taking a lot of time with us because he rushed back to watch us do our Doctor Who review, didn't he?
Don't bring up bloody Docky Who on this show. But using the old Star Wars reference, you can say, yes, we would be honoured if you would join us. And we were, so which is very, very groovy. Also, Mr. Chris has joined us all up in Queensland, which is absolutely fantastic. Revenge of the Fifth. We've got to get a few things out of the way before we get into the really meaty Star Wars talk, but hopefully you guys are enjoying it. Is that my face on his shirt? It was. I can't believe that he actually made Thomas wear the shirt with my head emblazoned on it. You're an absolute like sadist to your customers there, Mr. Aaron. What do you reckon?
I am. I didn't mention this to you. Christy came in this week as well.
Oh, well done. Good stuff. So Christy's been a previous writer, which is very, very cool. But good to see she came back, which is absolutely fantastic. Even the Vile are saying, oh, yes, on you, Thomas. And yes, Mr. Chris, you can get shirts with my head on them. How good is that? All right, we need to move on. Otherwise, we'll never get to the really exciting stuff of the episode. So let's get into it, kids. And away we go. All right, so I like this one from Rusky Babes. Yes, they do use Doctor Who costumes in Star Wars. You can't escape it. Yes, exactly right. The old Docky Who, it permeates everything everywhere. So what are we talking about tonight then, Mr. Aaron, regarding some new stuff that's come out?
Now, I don't know if you're playing it in the order I gave it to you, but I think we're highlighting one of the coolest things ever this week, which is like crosses about 3 different genres in one. So we starting.
Hang on. You said the coolest thing ever. You're not talking about collectibles made of you, are you?
No, I'm a cool cat, but I'm not a collectible yet.
Very, very cool. We're starting with this, actually. So there you go.
Well, this is the thing. This is it. Now, how cool is this? This is a wrestling figure, but it's Andre the Giant. But it's Andre the Giant as Bigfoot from the $6 Million Man episode. Now, that is like the multiverse right there, isn't it? You've got wrestling, you've got cryptozoology, you've got the $6 Million Man, you've got Andre the Giant. I mean, who wouldn't want this figure in their collection?
You need to shave the beard off and give him the Princess Bride sort of look. So, but yeah, what is the point of this?
I think it's hilarious. I'm like, oh, this is the coolest thing ever. And you're like, what is the point of it? He's very hirsute, isn't he? But no, this is in their elite wrestling figure range, and they often give a curveball of something that they'll release. Sometimes they've done like 80s stuff or different wrestlers, but this is the weirdest one ever, and I think it's absolutely cool. And Andre the Giant played the robot Bigfoot in the $6 Million Man episode, and they've decided to release it in the wrestling range.
I find the fact he's wearing no clothes at all. I mean, maybe that's how Andre the Giant used to look when he was like in the buff in his birthday suit, and because they got no pants on him or anything. So, yeah, that's just totally unnecessary. But hey, if people like that sort of thing, then good on them, I guess. But yeah, what do you reckon?
Well, maybe he was invited to one of those Wookiee parties.
I'll just remind you, anybody want a peanut? Yeah, exactly right. Absolutely. What a funny old fellow that was Andre. Yeah, so if you feel like you're in the need for a bit of Andre the Giant, $6 million Yeti, whatever, Bigfoot action, then feel free to go out and buy it, give it a bit of a stroke and a pat, and like Aaron earlier, yeah, it could be the coolest cat in town. This is Harry's one.
Add it, stroke it, see what pops up. Yeah.
Actually, you're right, Mr. Violet. It is just a dude without the ape mask. Absolutely. He needs a waxing. Oh, jeez. Good luck with that. Very, very cool. All right, 3 genres in one. Can you top it? Probably not. All right, but if you like a shitload of action figures, you got to love a bit of this.
Well, these are the Iron Studios mini statuettes of the Eternals. Now, there wasn't a lot of merchandise released for the Eternals. It was one of the Marvel movies that maybe didn't perform as well as some of the other ones, so there wasn't a lot around. Individually, I think these are sort of okay. They're none of the characters that I think are amazing, but what I do like is when they give you the bases that connect together, and when you put them all together and have all the Eternals. And what I do like, see, some of these ones have bases that are higher up, so you can layer them, as they say. So they actually make quite a good diorama. So usually I wouldn't highlight the Eternals. I think the movie went by with not much merchandise, but I thought these are just about to come out, and I thought they are pretty amazing dioramas. So anyone who's into the Marvel universe, I'm pretty sure these ones will come and go pretty fast. And if you look for them now and you can't get them on the secondary market, I'm pretty sure they'll be going for quite a lot. What will probably tend to happen is you'll be able to get like 8 out of the 10 of them, and then 2 of them will be impossible to find. So if you get them straight away, you won't have to pay those stupid secondary market prices for them.
Moneybags Sullivan has said that he didn't really think much of the movie. I enjoyed it as entertainment, but I can imagine it's just not going to get much like long play. I mean, wouldn't be surprised if, as you said, the figures come and go and they just move on. And people go, "Oh, did you get the Eternals figures?" And they go, "No." Nah. Like, okay, who cares? Move on. So yes, very very cool. Okay. But there are a couple of things that have come out that people may be more interested in. Is a bit of this.
Now, these are an interesting set of figures. We've talked about it before. McFarlane Toys are taking over the DC Direct Batman, and they've released some amazing stuff. What's interesting about these are old statuettes that sold out quite a while ago and are really, really hard to get. And McFarlane has decided to reissue them. Now, I don't know for collectors who got the originals, which were limited, if they sort of, are a bit dirty about that because suddenly the figures are out again through a different company. They've obviously used the same molds. The colors, I reckon, are 90% the same as the original. That one there, the Beast Batman, is interesting. I think it should have come with a chalkboard, because obviously his secret power would have been putting those claws down a chalkboard. But that's just a Dags joke there. But these are quite...
Most people are going, what the hell's a chalkboard? Oh, you mean a blackboard? Ah, very good. Good on you.
But these are quite nice figures. They are a premium compared to what you would pay for something. They're 1/10 scale, and they're about $300 to $400 each, which is quite a bit of change for a small figure like that. But they are really nice ones, so I thought I'd highlight them this week in the news because there wasn't much else.
Yeah, I don't get the Batman one myself. It just seems a bit unusual, but it's probably the wrong angle for the photograph, but whatever. So
yeah,
can't say black back. What? Oops. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I missed the part of that. Anyway, so very, very cool. If these things haven't really floated your boat, well, I guess there's only one thing left to talk about. Of course, that is the stuff that is completely invading poor old Aaron's store at the moment. It's this.
Useless Pop of the Week!
Aren't they just?
So if I digress with a little story, sometimes I say weird things happens to me. We bought a big pop collection, and I said to Chad, we are not buying any more pop collections. If anyone brings them in, we just don't have room for more pops. As I said that, a couple of minutes later, the phone rang, and a guy said, I'm coming in, I've got some stuff to sell. Do you buy pops? And I said, I really am not interested in buying more pops at the moment. He's like, well, I've already got them in the boot of the car, and I'm halfway there. So we ended up buying more pops. But yeah, that's my little story for the week. This week is a Star Wars pop, and it's an interesting, useless pop because it doesn't look like a pop. And if you collect pops, you probably want pops that look like pops. What did you think of this one, Dags?
I'm going to show you in a sec, kids. So regarding the pop situation at Aaron's store, yeah, they are invading. They're now got their own section. Just as soon as you walk in the door, they are permeating everything. And so if you've got pops you want to get rid of, clearly Aaron's store is the place to go to get rid of them, even if he says he doesn't want them. So there you go.
Well, we will buy them for surprisingly little.
Thomas has actually said the first pop seen in real life was at the store. So there you go. And you're right. Pop goes their collection. Well, you need to add this to your collection. As to why is anybody's guess. It is good old D.O. What is the deal with this?
Well, this is an interesting one because occasionally pops will make something that doesn't resemble a pop and it's cool, like maybe the robot from Lost in Space or things like that. This is a Star Wars pop. It's smaller than regular pops. If you took it out of the pop box, you wouldn't actually know it is a pop. And let's face it, it isn't one of the most popular characters either, is it?
Totally agree with you. Moneybags has said there are no useless Star Wars pops. I reckon there are plenty of useless Star Wars ones. And this is probably one of them. Hang on. And he stands corrected. He's changed his mind already. Oh,
Yeah,
dear,
it
dear. The
basically looks like a portable hairdryer to me. So
Yeah,
I don't know what they were thinking when they did this. They'd already like added the new droid to the trilogy, and this was the new droid. And there was no way BB-8 and DO were going to take over the popularity of C-3PO and R2-D2. So for me, this is a useless pop of a useless character.
I agree with Gavin. It does look like a hairdryer on a wheel, but Ange on the right track. It's a shuttlecock. So if you're short, if you're playing badminton and you need to whack something, whack this thing. So I could do with a damn good whack. And what can I say? Hey, Jeff Road. It took me a while to work it out. DOH. Yeah, very, very cool. And you are right, Mr. Michael. Throw another pop in the fire. Unbelievable. So very good, Mr. Chris. The Apollo Command Module. Yes, very, very groovy. But I agree with you. Outside of the box, you would not know that was a pop. You know why? Because it doesn't have the traditional black eyes that most of them have. So, yes, very, very good. Comment, Russell. I'm not going to put on the screen. Russell's made a comment. If this was a VAL file, he'd say it's something else. But unfortunately, it isn't the VAL file, and we're not going to put it on the screen. So there you go. Anyway, useless pop of the week. Absolutely, unbelievably stupid. And there you go. Very, very cool. All right, we need to move on. Anything else you want to say about good old DO before we do move on, Mr. Aaron?
No, just about talking about shuttlecocks. The VAL file is coming up soon.
Very, very cool. Yes, and that's this good Star Wars stuff too. But in the meantime, we've got something very, very cool because something actually turned up, believe it or not, in this. All righty then. Now, before we get to show you, hang on, yes, we do. So here we go, Mr. Aaron. What's going on?
Well, as everyone knows, we do this this segment to buy stuff that we know when it turns up isn't going to be good. And we've seen over past weeks all the different crap that like overseas sellers have sent to me that were meant to be premium items. And one of the things that really disappoints me is when stuff turns up and it's actually good, and what it is when it comes and it looks like it was advertised. And I have to say, I thought there was no way that these were going to turn up and be any good. And that's why I bought two of them, because I was doubling down on how crap they would be. So this is what we ordered. We ordered two Critters prop dolls. They're life-size Critters from the movie Critters. They were reduced all the way down to $29 for a prop replica, which is pretty good. Now, even from that, you can see they're not going to be high-grade exact replicas, but they're pretty good. Now, this is what we got.
Now, the irony being, of course, that by default, the Critters are pretty damn ugly looking items. So you expect the final product to turn up to look pretty shit. But here we go.
So the hair, like I probably could brush it out a bit and it would look plusher than it is. The hair on the ones that they advertised is a bit bigger, but overall, this is probably my favorite thing that we've ordered in the 2 years we've been doing this show. They turned up, and of course, they turned up in just a padded bag. So I was like, is this going to be the Hobbit home, or is this going to be something else? And when I opened it, they don't stink like some of the stuff. They're pretty close to what was advertised. The ones advertised are a little bit better, but for $29, I thought these were really, really good value.
Now, just to show how Aaron's mind works, he sent me a message and goes, shit, man, these things are actually really, really good. And in the very next breath, he says, oh, I can sell them in the store. So that price that you saw at $30 American, he's going to just jack it up with an extra $1 or $2 on top and expect to see them in the store very, very soon. Look at that. So, hey, how cool is that?
This is what they are here. And, you know, I actually think they are quite good. You can see they've got the feet, the hands, they're all individually painted, the teeth, the mouth, the face. For something, I've seen these replicas going for a couple of $100 each, and the site said they were $49 reduced to $29. This one is the red one. This one is the green one. They kind of are a little bit similar. But you know what? I actually think Greg King's ordered his best thing so far. My favorite.
How about that? So and of course the irony being that when Aaron does order something from all these overseas places and they turn out to be pretty good, he's pretty unhappy about it. So there you go. So yes, have some fun with some Critters. Of all the things that could have turned up looking really shit house, they actually turned out okay in the end. So fancy that. And look, Tom is saying actually they're cute. Oh yeah.
To just give everyone some scale, that's the Maltese Falcon.
Now, Rusky Babes, who's watching this right now, you've made all these fun facts about the Maltese Falcon. Now, can you imagine in the 1941 movie if that was the Falcon they were looking for? The Maltese Budgie. What do you reckon?
Yeah, well, if it was the Falcon, that's definitely not a family car.
Very, very cool. And now, just regarding the Maltese Falcon. Now, for the people who haven't watched this episode before, there's a long story regarding Aaron ordered a Maltese Falcon. There's a bit of dicking around. He got some other stuff, but of course, what he got was the Maltese Budgie. And of course, there's been this ongoing correspondence between himself and the guy Ronnie over in the company overseas. And we're going to show you who Ronnie is in a second. But did you just want to read out? This is the correspondence from Ronnie back to Aaron regarding the extra money that he spent recently to get his Hobbit home.
As you would remember, last week, the Soul Greg King authorised me to send my third lot of money to Ronnie to get the Hobbit home. And Ronnie got back with, "Hey, Aaron, thank you for the additional payment. You will not be disappointed by the parcel when it arrives. Remember, because of pandemic conditions, this parcel may take a long time to arrive. Please be patient and do not start claim for your money. You will receive item at some point. All the best, Ronnie."
Love it. That is absolutely fantastic. It will arrive at some point. Now, you might be asking yourself, after all this correspondence, for those who've been watching this show for a few episodes, who the hell is Ronnie? Well, believe it or not, we've got a picture of him, right? It's like a sketch from those police people who draw pictures of murders and shit. Well, believe it or not, if you want to know who Ronnie looks like, he looks like, yep, he's a friggin' friendly.
This is the only way we can explain it. And obviously, he's following all the rules of acquisition because he's acquiring all my money, that's for sure.
Now, this is like Rusky Babes, as you know, for those who don't know about this show, has produced a fun factoid worth bottling, right? Fun factoid, Humphrey Bogart was actually a dwarf, but he appeared normal size due to the camera chemicals. So the Maltese Budgie is actually... That is awesome, Rusky. I reckon you must be sitting there thinking, I've got to get a bit of one-upmanship on this. I can't let this one defeat me. So that is very, very cool.
So, so that's where we are with the Maltese Falcon and the Hobbit home. Hopefully we get something, but who can tell?
Now, of course, the key thing is that obviously this crap is turning up from overseas, right? And Aaron's sitting there thinking, well, what can I do with it? Well, he shoves it in the store, and I'm sure the Maltese Budgie will end up there at some point. And dudes are coming along and buying it all.
Yeah, so we buy this kind of as a joke, and I put it into the shop with exorbitant prices on. And this week we've sold two. We've sold the Sir Didymus, which is from the Labyrinth, but it's obviously not the prop replica that they advertised. We ordered that, the Luck Dragon, which also sold, and we've still got the Worm. And we've got the Maltese Dragon that we were originally sent and told was very lucky and much better than the Maltese Falcon until I kicked up a fuss and got them to send the mini Maltese Falcon as a replacement. So we've had two sales from Greg King's cabinet this week. This segment's paying for itself.
Which means that is sold. Good old Greg King, he's done it again. Is that right?
Yep, Greg King, you've done it again.
Now, keep in mind, fans, that we know exactly how much Aaron paid for these items because it's been announced in this show. So when you go into the store, there's an extra digit that's been added in at the front of the price tag, and you go, oh, it's a little bit of a markup there. So, administration fees, is that what you call it there, Mr. Aaron?
I just put a little tag on it, as appeared on Rip It Off the Card, and bump it up 100%.
Absolutely. 100. Oh, that's being optimistic. What can I say? There you go. The Maltese Dragon is called Gregory. I love it. Very, very cool. But yes, good old Ronnie is definitely a bit of a Ferengi. And as we know, with the first rule of acquisition from the Ferengi, once you have their money, you never give it back. And that's exactly what's happened in this particular situation. So,
yeah. Well, the Maltese Dragon's named Gregory. He can definitely find his way around.
I love this one, right? Aaron, the dodgy reseller. So he's buying dodgy products in the first place from very dodgy Ronnies, and then he's reselling it all. Who's the more dodgier, the dodgiest or the dodgier of the dodgies?
Yes, exactly. I think I'm 100% dodgier.
Absolutely love it. Anyway, so that's where we are with good old Greg King's cheaper things. So fantastic.
Yeah. So we've added in the critters, and we will see if the critters eat the vermin that's in his garage.
Very cool. Now, there's a comment here from James. I'm just going to stick this online. I just thought I'd tune up to Ep 5 at the moment. I don't know if you're watching 5 episodes of us. Oh, my God. Trying to make it the 1 to 6. Oh, geez, dude. You're a hero. What do you call it? A sucker for punishment. So there you go. All right, guess what, fans? That's the end of all the weird and wacky shit. It is now Star Wars for the rest of the show. Yay, team! The quality is definitely there. And, of course, we're going to kick it off with a bit of quality in the Vile File. What do you reckon there, Mr. Aaron?
Well, this file could have been a bit of a controversial one, couldn't it, Dags? But it's not.
Yeah, Mr. Chris, after waiting was it nearly 20 minutes for the absolute rubbishy stuff, we've finally got some good stuff coming up our way. And yes, and we're going to start high quality, fans. All right. So if you're talking about high end Star Wars collectibles, you cannot go past this. We're kicking it off with a bit of this, the Universal War.
Now, we've had the Vile look at bootlegs and knockoffs and these kind of bad toys before, and we have done a Star Wars one. We looked at a lot of the Episode 1 stuff because there was an absolute avalanche of bootleg toys, but the Vile has gone deep into the dark net, and he's dug up even more stuff that we haven't highlighted before. And so we're going to look at Star Wars bootlegs, and some of them are absolutely horrible. Now, this set you can see here, it's Universal Wars. The Universal Wars font looks like the toy Battlestar Galactica font, which I don't think a lot of people would notice. But if you look at the characters they've chosen Stormtrooper, grey alien from X-Files, Darth Vader, grey alien with a spacesuit on, and maybe Phasma or a clone trooper. So it covers just about everything. Like if there's a Vile toy or a Vile toy set, that's got to be one of the top Star Wars ones, hasn't it?
Absolutely. Now, Chris has asked, how do I get one? That would be contacting Ronnie from overseas is probably a good place to start.
Well, no, they're in lockdown. Apparently, they're welded into their own factories at the moment, so we won't be seeing anything from Ronnie for a while. Yep. Now, this one, the Vile reached in deep, and he got something just for Gavin. And he found some bootleg Yodas. Now, I don't know if that's Yoda's snake in the one on the top left, the top right, or something else, but it looks like they've taken the original toy and then they've remade it in Dayglow green kind of color. And then the one on the left, which is carded, you've kind of got like it almost looks like the pose where he's about to fight Dooku and he's about to grab his lightsaber, which is an interesting one. But the term that comes to mind that's the horror for a lot of collectors is super deformed. Super deformed is where they get one of your favorite figures and then they squish it down until it's about the size of an egg, and you can see there's a bunch of unlicensed super deformed Star Wars figures there, and Master Yoda is in the middle. So that's a bit of bootleg Yoda for you, Dags.
That last one, it looks like Shredder from the Turtles. Yeah, I don't know who this guy's meant to be, but it doesn't look like anybody that I know.
That's actually Qui-Gon.
Oh, really? I like this one. Even while we're still yapping on, good old Rusky Babes has come up with a real fun factoid. So for those who didn't know about the whole saga with Universal and Fox and yada, yada, yada. Ange, now the reason, it's good that you spotted that, the STBR Wars, which for those who haven't noticed it is up here. The reason why they can come around is that, believe it or not, if you actually have the Star Jedi font, you're meant to always write it in lowercase to get the correct aspect ratio. If you write it in uppercase, some of the letters actually come out differently, right? And I think if you have the uppercase A, it turns out is B. Don't ask me why. It's one of those sort of quirky things, but clearly they didn't even bother to try and fix it.
Do you know what, Dave? Do you know what? That actually happens in my brain, and that's why Yoda is one of my favorite figures.
Absolutely love it. You can't even pronounce it, are you? STBR Wars. Yeah, exactly right. But anyway, move along. We're time for a bit of Space Power Warrior.
Space Power Warrior is, of course, like the favorite bootleggers used to create Darth Vader from. You've got the Space Power Warrior Darth Vader version. Well, take your mind off of Yoda's snake and look at Vader's lightsaber. So the position of the lightsaber in the interesting one is in the first one is interesting, where one wrong move, Vader will be singing falsetto for the rest of his life. The one on the left, the one on the right is really interesting. He's got these sort of painted in googly eyes. So someone decided to get Vader's helmet, give his eyes white highlights, and then put red dots in the middle of them, which, you know, you can just imagine while Vader's in his meditation chamber, a couple of the stormtroopers decide to have a joke. So they go and stick those googly eyes on his helmet. So when he comes out and goes and gives the lectures, no one can keep a straight face.
What's the deal? I don't get the deal with the silver boots, though. Why the hell does Darth Vader have to have silver boots? Someone said, oh, no, we've got to paint silver boots on the guy. It's just the way it has to be. So, unbelievable.
Yeah, well, you know, bootleggers have never really been sticklers for detail, have they?
That's a very good point. And it's good to see that his Schwartz is as big as yours, Mr. Aaron. You notice I didn't say mine.
Now, here's some interesting ones. It's a little bit small to see some of these, but the thing about these is the most lazy of lazy bootleggers used to get the actual original toys, make very crude molds of them, pop out the figures and then paint them horribly. Now, the interesting thing about these ones, the ones from the 70s and 80s, is when they originally came out, they were hated and despised and nobody want them. And now they're worth 10 times as much as the original figures. The interesting one there, though, is the Gamorrean guard. Someone left him in the wash too long and he's got a bit of shrinkage.
Well, that happened in the book of Boba Fett and the Mandalorian anyway, didn't it? So they kind of lost their size. I don't mind this, though, the laser sword. That's not too bad, with the lights. I don't know who like, he's just wearing normal clothes, this dude. No, who's this guy?
Well, that one's Vader, and the other one is Luke. Luke has just decided to go casual, though, in a pair of jeans and a red top. So there you have them. I think they're European laser swords back from the 80s.
I was going to say he's gone there. It's casual work day on Tatooine, so absolutely love it when you're out harvesting moisture, which is absolutely fantastic. Yay, team!
Now, Vader was probably the most bootlegged character. I would say that's because I would say Vader is the most popular character in the Star Wars saga. And bootleggers had a field day. Little Vaders, big Vaders, the wrong color. As Dag said, silver highlighted Vaders, really crude ones, knocked off ones. As you can see, if you were collecting bootlegs, you could get a Vader for every day of the week.
Oh, so much to say about Thomas's comment, but I'm just not going to. Yeah, you're actually right. I mean, he's easy to do. Regardless of the shape, as long as he's black, everybody knows who it's meant to be. Although, what the hell what are we looking at over here? Is that meant to be him over here? Is it?
That's the most fantastic Vader of all, because what we didn't realize, because he's got robotic arms and legs, he's a bit like Inspector Gadget. You can take them off and put on different attachments. So you've got a Vader there that's got a drill for one arm and then a clamp for the other. So that's one of the obviously deleted scenes where Vader replaces his robotic arm with a drill to get through a door or a wall or something like that. But that's a Japanese bootleg, quite an interesting one to find. A nice one.
So would it be funny if he had to walk to the scene when he's going to interrogate Leia and he says, now, Your Highness, will discuss the location of a hidden rebel base, and he pulls out like the screwdriver in one hand and the drill in the other.
Well, it was always a possibility, and Leia would have been terrified, I think. Yeah.
Yep.
Now, it's not just the figures that are bootlegs. Sometimes they use the Star Wars imagery to sell existing items. Now, these are cap guns. Everybody remembers the scenes in Star Wars where they pull out guns that shoot bullets and fire at each other over and over, don't they, Dags? That's my favourite scene.
Yeah. Keep going.
So, yeah, and I don't know, it's not that easy to see, but there's some fantastic imagery there where they've taken the poster from Empire Strikes Back with Vader sort of over the top of Hoth walking forward with an arm out, but they've put put someone's head in his hand. So, like, he's holding a decapitated head, which I don't remember from any scene from Star Wars, but would have been pretty cool.
One thing I do like, and this is why I wasn't really listening to you. One of the things they have done correctly, believe it or not, is that Luke is actually holding the gun in his left hand, because if I'm not mistaken, Mark Hamill's actually left-handed. And in the scene when he's shooting out of the detention center, he's actually shooting with his left hand because Han is opposite, shooting out of his right hand. So I thought, what are the chances they'd get that one right? Unbelievable. And I agree with you. It does look like something from Buck Rogers. Yes, you could easily just replace the body and the head and away you go. So, pew, 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 pew. What do you reckon, old son?
I reckon those pews are worth a couple of dollars. That's what I reckon.
I'll tell you what, you're never short of a good pew. What can I say?
Now, don't think bootlegs are just for the olden days. They bootleg recent stuff as well. This is a box of a bag of amazing figures you could get at sort of the reject shop, those solid vinyl, hard plastic figures. There's a Ray in the middle there, and someone from Miami Vice with with a bazooka and some silver pants on the right. But you can get a whole box, and you can see there's a BB-8 in the middle there, and then there's a whole lot of assortments of stormtroopers with flame-throwing backpacks and some dude that's been painted green. So you can still, if you collect bootlegs, not have to buy the ones from the original trilogy cost a fortune. You can get them probably from your local post office, from what I've been seeing turn up at post offices at the moment.
Man, what kind of Star Wars nerd are you? What, green cape man? Give me a character name at least.
Okay, that must be Isha Tib, I think. That's Isha Tib.
Yep, that'll do. You are right about Ray. She has been chasing parked cars, unfortunately. And whoever this dude is with his silver pants,
Yeah.
it's like, I'd say your Schwartz is as big as mine.
Is it meant to be Schwarzenegger maybe from Terminator? I don't know. And they've got
Classic,
the
dude.
jacket wrong or something. But,
Absolutely. You are right, Mr. Angier. Reject Shop exclusives. Fantastic. So there you go. And I agree with you. What is a collection? There's a lot of C's in that particular word up here, isn't there? C's everywhere.
a collection is code word for you find them in the show bags at the Royal Melbourne Show.
Love it.
And this is one of my favourite lot of bootlegs I found. Originally, I thought that they might have been customs that someone had painted up, but no, these are Rigi-Dig Mexican bootlegs. You've got like a whole pack of murder bears there from Endor. I like particular the green. Sorry, there's no green one. The yellow baby one at the front and the pink mother at the back, which is sort of a repaint of Chief Chirper. So with the eyes highlighted, you could just imagine them staring at you through the dark, couldn't you?
Yes, you can give me a bit of yub action any day of the week. Absolutely fantastic. Now, way back here, Mr. Chris said, "Oh, I hope you include Galaxy Cops." We kind of haven't because they're a little bit too common and they're actually too cool for this particular segment because we are about violating things after all. And those Ewoks look like they've been violated. What can I say? And you're right, zombie bears. Looks like they have rabies.
That would have been great if the Empire had introduced rabies to Endor just to make all the natives.
Yeah, if you go down to the woods today, yab. Absolutely fantastic. So what are you trying to tell us about these particular items that the Vile has picked out for Star Wars Day, Mr. Aaron?
Well, he's found them, curated them, put them in his collection, and well and truly violated them.
Absolutely unbelievable. You got to love those knockoffs. And there would be people out there who would actually collect these things on a regular basis. So there you go. Mr. Thomas absolutely enjoyed that, which is cool. And yes, exactly right. Yeah, Ewok Power Rangers. Fantastic. Yeah, you're right. If you go to the woods today, absolutely run, which is very, very groovy. All right, we're still sticking with the Star Wars theme. Absolutely fantastic. This time we get to be a bit more interactive with what's going on. And of course, it's time for this.
Ooh, baby, do you know that's what...
All right, so what are we discussing tonight, Mr. Aaron?
We're looking at Star Trek, of course. No, we're looking at Star Wars items. It's one of everyone's favorite because everyone knows what Star Wars items are worth. So the guesses are pretty accurate with these. So I've trawled eBay for the last week to see what are some of the highs and lows that have gone on the internet. And we're going to guess what some of the prices went for right now.
All right, so the idea for the people who've never seen this before, don't Google it, don't cheat or anything like that. Just take a guess as to what you think the item sold for, okay? So, and Andrew's already kicked off with 652 without even knowing what it is.
Yes, well, this is a very cool item. It's not boxed, but this is an original vintage AT-ST Walker, chicken walker, complete with all the stickers, all the attachments, the gun on the top, which is always missing. These are quite desirable now. Original classic Star Wars stuff is really drying up. So even though this is loose, quite a desirable item that a lot of new collectors are trying to add to their collection. How much did this go for on eBay just a week ago?
Now, you had two of these in the store, didn't you? Is that right?
I did, yeah.
Very cool. All right, so Ange kicked it off with 652. I assume he's going to stick with it. Carol, who's obviously a Star Trek fan, has gone for $2. Gavin is at $12.95. Carol's rechanged it to. Oh, hang on. Hang on. Just go. Oh, Carol, you've changed your bid. You've gone from $2 to $4.50. All right, I'll take the $4.50. Mr. Uncle Darth up north has gone for $1.25. Rusky Babes is at $1.30. Moneybag Sullivan is at $3.50. Natasha, the little dude. Good to see them joining tonight. Is at $7.80. Thomas is at $7.45. Colin is at 65. Glennis is joining us at 300. Michael is at 500. Grant is at 180. William is at 600. Mark is at 50. And violating a chicken walker, as one is very prone to do, is the Vile at $120, which is absolutely fantastic. So there you go. Jonathan, who's finally joined us in the show, which is absolutely awesome, is at $460. Very, very cool. It's loose. It is used, but it's got all the bits there, as Aaron said. So what do you reckon it's going to go for? Christy's gone for $81. I know it's a tricky one, isn't it? So we do not know. A Star Wars vintage AT-ST Walker, looking very, very cool. Oh, Greg has just chucked in $2 in the garage sale. Oh, Greg, you've just insulted the rest of the Star Wars fans. How much do you reckon it went for? It went for a whopping $3.50. What's the deal?
Now, there are still occasionally a bargain that you can find on eBay. Now, remember when I look for the extremes, the super high and the super low, not so much the middle. When I sell these in the shop in this condition, about $150 to $200, and they go quite quickly. I wish I had found that auction and bid on it. Of course, I saw this and then looked for chicken walkers to see if I could find another cheap one. And it was one of those anomalies that went super cheap. But it looks like Greg King is kicking all the goals today.
Well, I'll tell you what's funny. Carol originally started with $2 because, he's been a bit of a shit stirrer. Then went to 450. So you shot yourself in the foot there, Carol. So, yes, exactly right. Should have stuck with the original bid. Oh, no, that's ridiculous. $3.50. But that's bullshit. So it's clearly, what do you reckon happened? Do you reckon someone just snapped it up really fast or something? One bid
I
only?
looked at it. No, it's not a buy it now. It was an auction. It's got Star Wars written right. It has vintage. It has ATST Walker. Like, it should have been visible. It might have been, it went in the middle of the day when no one is on eBay, or I don't know. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes everybody gets a bargain on eBay, and that was one of the bargains.
Well, yeah, that's just absolutely ridiculous. You could resell that really, really quickly. Oh, here's one for your 501st nutbags. Go for it.
So this is a EFX first edition Stormtrooper helmet prop replica. These are quite nice. There's a few different versions of this. This is the original, which a lot of people are after because it is the nicer one. They did a stunt version that has the green lenses in the eyes as well after this one. This one was more limited, I think. So this is a nice replica of a Stormtrooper helmet. So how much are we going to be paying for this to put it in our helmet collection, Dags?
Very cool. Like, Ange has already foregone the old cheap and nasty going like the silly answers. He's chucked in $4,050. Marcus, we'll go 700 round figures. Gavin has gone $24 only. Collins at $150. Moneybag Sullivan, who's a bit of a helmet dude in his own little ways, at $650. Jonathan said $700. Thomas is at $350. Given the last auction results, 50 cents. Oh, I don't know if that strategy is going to work. Carol said 5,560. Glenna says at 700. Natasha said, Dave, Mr. Spankin has said 450. He's a bit of a helmet dude as well. What do other people think? EFX first edition. So what do everybody reckon that might be the go? I don't know how it works, if you can wear it or anything like that. Violating good old this Stormtrooper helmet is the Violet 750. Williams at 1,500. Kelvin is at 243. Grant is at 225. A bit of a range of prices there for everybody. Rusky Babes has chucked in 375, which is particularly groovy. All right. Let's have a look. So Star Wars EFX first edition Stormtrooper helmet. You can see what it looks like there. Very, very groovy. How much do you reckon it went for? It went for a whopping $3,000 effing dollars. Oh, Jesus.
Now, when these originally came out, I can't remember if they were $750 or $1,000 even, but they've obviously gone up a bit in the 10 years since they were originally released. EFX is one of those companies. It's not as well regarded as some, but it's a lot better than some of the other companies that are putting helmets out. The Stormtrooper original one was hard to find, so someone has lashed out and got $3,000 for this one.
I think, based on what I've just quickly seen, and he only did it as a shit stir, Ange is 4,000. He gets $1,000 back and $50 based on what I can see here. So how about that? $3,000 freaking dollars. How many freaking 501st bloody Stormtrooper suits could you buy with that? So unbelievable. So you are right, Mr. Gavin, Mr. Good old Buckethead. Golly.
Yeah.
So there you go. Very, very, very cool. So, all right, good stuff. All right, we're going to plod along. All right, so just to show that you can't necessarily predict the prices being too high or too low. And you are right, Mr. Uncle Darth. You could almost buy your own ship for that. But who's going to wear it, kid? You? There we go. Very, very cool.
Now, here are some interesting items. These are from my childhood and probably a lot of Star Wars fans' childhood. These are just 2 packets, one of Star Wars and one of Empire Strikes Back, of Scanlan's cards, and they're unopened. So they still have sticks of bubble gum in. And if you open those, because I have opened old card packets and tasted the gum is now crunchy and tastes like mothballs. So if you want that naphthalene fresh breath, you could buy this auction and open them and maybe get some cards for your collection. They're rarer than the American ones because they're Scanlans, but this is an Australian auction, so maybe they're easier to get in Australia.
Chris has said, do they come with the gum? The answer is yes. They are exactly as they were first manufactured. So there you go. What do you reckon, eh? All right. Ange said $3.50, 2 packs of gum cards. Okay, so keep that in mind, kids. Gavin's at 49. Moneybag Sullivan is at 20. Collins at 50. Thomas is at 80. Carol's at 190. Grant's at 20. Good old Chris is at 125. Oh, Jonathan's gone right up, 450. Natasha has said, Spankin has said 30. William's at 150. Sorry, 150. Christie's gone for 5, $2.50 each. Rusky Babes is at 75. Greg has gone for the $2, $1 each. I love the sound of that. Even Mark's joined him for 50 cents each. Glennis is at 100. Violating the Scanlon's cards is the Vile at 100. Natasha and the little dude has just said $1 as well. You don't know, do you? Who gives a shit? Scanlon's cards. There were millions of them here everywhere. I don't remember seeing the one on the left, though. That doesn't sort of ring any bells. Yeah, what do you reckon, dude?
Well, the thing was, when Star Wars came out here, it was about 6 months after the States. They knew it was going to be big, but they still didn't know it was going to be as big as they thought it was. In Australia, it wasn't as big as America. They only did the first set of cards locally, where in America it was so popular they did 5 sets. So those are quite hard to get in Australia, those ones.
Very good. Jeff Rowe has come up with 200. That's $100 each. And Chris, apparently Spankin has technical problems trying to comment on the thing, hence the reason why he has to go through Natasha and the little dude, of course. All right, Scanlan Star Wars Series 1, right? And The Empire Strikes Back, unopened packs. So we're talking about 1977 and 1980. Who gives a shit? We would have seen millions of them in our time. How much do you reckon they went for? They went for a whopping 1,500 effing dollars.
Scanlan's cards are impossibly rare to find unopened. I've been collecting since Star Wars came out, and the only unopened Star Wars packs from Scanlan's I've got are the ones I bought as a kid. I have seen them, and you know, when normal packs were going for like $5, the Scanlan's ones were going for $100. Now the normal packs might be going for $100, and the Star Wars ones, the Scanlan's ones, are going for $1,500. So that is insane.
You know what? Nobody was even remotely close, right? Not even like in the vicinity. And I think the closest was, and I think it was for this, was Jonathan at 450. And you still got to cough up an extra $1,000, dude. So there you go. How nuts is that? That's crazy. That's $750 a packet. Imagine this is the thing I've said before in the show. Imagine buying this, going home to your other half and say, "Hey, honey, guess what I bought? 2 of these at $750 each." That is bullshit. And,
well,
I'll tell you what, that's just madness.
We had someone bring in a mint set of Scanlan's Empire Strikes Back cards. I bought it and put it in the shop for $600, and it sold about 10 minutes after I put it in the shop. They're crazy. People are after the Scanlan stuff.
Yeah, people call you money bags. I know, that's just madness, but I can understand it. Exactly right. You can understand it. Remember, like you said, these are Australian release, yeah?
Yeah.
That's the reason why. You're right, Mark. Only $1,500 short. Yeah, very, very cool. All right, so this is really throwing cats amongst pigeons, because now nobody's going to know what's going on regarding what to bid for this item.
Here's an interesting one. This is a Mediacon Return of the Jedi Boba Fett. So these are, let me put it in context. These were high-end figures before Hot Toys came out and really destroyed all the other high-end figures. So these were the ones that were the same sort of collector value as Sideshow and some of those 12-inch figures. So a lot better than the Hasbro toys, a lot more accessories. They look a lot better. The paintwork's better. The accessories are better and the articulation's fantastic, but they're not as desirable now because what happened, they released about a dozen of them and then Hot Toys came along and put them out of business.
I like how you said they're not as desirable now. People are going to put in lower prices, as opposed to Chris, he went for the full $12,000. So there you go. All right, Andrew's had $1.60. Gavin's at 15, $15. Chris has gone for 12,000. You can change that, Chris, if you want to. I will allow it. Moneybags is at 1,500. Jonathan has said 50. People are now completely stumped as to what to go with. Thomas is at 65. Christie's at 2,300. Carol's at 11, $30,000. Holy guacamole. Colin is at 100. Natasha said that Spankin said 2,000. Chris is he's ummed it. He's gone for 12,500. Rusky Babes 350. I think it's 350 or something. Violating good old Boba Fett as Viles often should do is the Vile at $450. What do other people think? William has gone for $450. Michael has gone for $100. Natasha and the little dude is at $276, which is absolutely fantastic. Media Camp, was it? Mediacom toy, real action hero, Star Wars Boba Fett, Return of the Jedi version. That alone means it's a little bit cheaper. Mark said 200. Good stuff. All right, how much you reckon it went for, kids? It is brand new. It does actually look pretty good, you got to say, in that particular image.
Yeah.
It went for, how much do you reckon it went for? It went for a whopping, based on the other items we've had so far, $1.
Now, how devastated would you be by that? Because that is a really nice figure. And if you put it on for $1 in an auction and expected it to take off and no one bid on it, I'd be pretty upset about that.
I'll tell you who didn't get it. Chris at 12,500. That is absolute tripe, isn't it? Oh, my God. No one is even remotely close to this. Sorry, hang on. Whoa. Start again. I cut you off.
Didn't Carol go 1,300? Or 13,000?
It could have been, yeah. That is, I'm trying to think who got this. Gavin may have it at 15, and he gets $14 back. Where was Greg King at this time? He could have chucked in his $2. And there you go. So Gavin said 15. Where was Ange's? I can't even remember. Oh, Ange, $1.60. Oh yeah, dude. Look at that. Yeah, you get look at that. You get to save yourself 60 cents. So how good is that, mate? There we go. I love the responses.
Well, you know what this week's eBay things has made me do. Now I'm going to constantly have eBay Star Wars looking at the auctions going off, and if any of these $1 and $3.49 things turn up, I'm going to start bidding on them for the shop.
Yeah, and you get the postage as well. Yeah, absolutely. It's insane, isn't it? It's absolute one bid. Dude, cop $1. As I've said before, and I'll say it again. For that price, why would you even post it? You just like throw it out the window, give it to the salvo. So it's not even worth doing a bank transfer or PayPal, and it's just complete rubbish. And yet it's $25 to ship the damn thing. All right, lucky last item, kids. What do you reckon? Oh, check it out.
Again, one of my favorite characters of all time in my favorite movie of all time. You've got your Star Wars action figure from Kenner, Darth Vader from Empire Strikes Back. You can't get much more iconic than that, can you, Dags?
Absolutely, totally agree with you. Oh, I thought you were going to say something else. All right. So, yeah, as you can see, it's a 1980 issue. Is that right there, Mr. Aaron? Anything else you want us while I'm waiting for some things to come through?
Yeah, and it's got the display stand offer. Some people collect cards with different offers on, so that's always something to look out for. This is Empire Strikes Back, which is not Vader's first appearance, which is the 12-back Star Wars card, but still a very, very popular toy.
Very, very cool. And you are right, Natasha. It all comes down to what you were willing to pay, but some people are paying way more, or in some cases, way less than the things they should be spending. All right, Lo, there's a few comments coming in. Let's go for it. All right, Vader in the card, 1980 issue. All right, so there's some action figure collectors out there, so see how good they are with this. Andrew said 19,000. Chris is at 12,500. Gavin is at 5,800. Carol said $70. Carol, even after 40 years, I think that's probably unlikely. 8,000 for Thomas. Jonathan's at 6,500. Moneybag Sullivan, who's certainly got the money to buy one of these if you wanted to, is 25,000. Mark is at 15,000. Williams at 250. Collins at 4,550. Natasha said Spankin said 6,000. And you are right. It is a Star Wars image on an Empire card. They did that a lot back then, actually. That's cheapskates. Rusky Babe said 800. And Natasha and the little dude. You'll have to sell the little dude to pay for this. 30,000. Glennis is at 1,000. Violating the Vader as one should is the Vile at 8,000. Jesus, some big money here, isn't it? Carol said 7,000. Grant is at 3,000. And Thomas has said 8 million decks. Well, there you go. I don't know. I think 8 million me's aren't going to get you anywhere. So there you go. Very, very cool. Star Wars Vader action figure 1980. Back in the day, it would have been millions of these floating around. Now, of course, they're as rare as hen's teeth, and people will do amazing things to try and buy these. Dude, while we're waiting, so does having this thing here make it worth more or less, do you reckon, the
Some people do actually like to have those on it with different, and some people try to collect a set with no offers at all. Also, it depends if it's like an offer that's got an Australian address on the back, because as we've seen, Australian address makes it a lot rarer and makes it go for more. And some people, like I said, will go for different card backs and try to collect every single Vader. and they want every single variant of that card. So different for different collectors.
Very good. And Mr. Greg has said he's realised he's got a whole loose box of loose Star Wars figures. He's going to be coughing them up very, very soon for some money. All right. What do you reckon? 42 years after the fact, Star Wars Darth Vader action figure Canon 1980. How much is it worth these days? Still mint in the packet. Oh, my God. It went for a whopping $5,050. Whoa. Holy guacamole.
So there was a couple of people close on this one, I think. 6,000 for Dave, I think.
Hey?
Spankin said 6,000. Is there any closer than that?
I'm going to have to, you're going to have to have a bit of a chat about this while I have a bit of a look, dude. There's big numbers floating around.
Yeah. So Star Wars figures have been always one of the popular things amongst collectors. The last 2 years, prices have gone through the roof. I think if you collected these 2 years ago, you've probably tripled to 4 times what you would have paid for them. They're going now. Darth Vader is always a popular character that's going to go for a lot. Like I said, he's one of my favorite characters, but he's a lot of people's favorite characters. So you're never going to be able to get this particular figure mint on card cheap. That said, if I ever find one that someone missed and it comes up for $2 on eBay, I'll probably use that on this segment as well.
Yes, Colin, you got it, mate. And you just got to cough up an extra 500 and something bucks, and it's all yours. And very, very good stuff. Yes, so Rusky Babes picked up on it as well. So the good thing about this particular item is it will never devalue. It's like property. It's just going to keep going up and up and up in value. And so it is going to be worth a lot more. So, another 20 years from now, you'll be able to add an extra or probably a 1 in front of that 5 just there. So, unbelievable. Mr. Gavin was $211 off. So there you go. Very, very good. Well done. So one of the Star Trek fans on this particular show won a Darth Vader Star Wars action figure, which is particularly groovy. What do you reckon of that, Mr. Aaron?
I think Gavin's saying he was closer.
They're going to start. Hang on. He's $211. Was he? Oh, hang on. Oh, too many big numbers for him to play with. Gavin was. Oh, hang on. I think you might be right, actually. 700. I got to check the thing out now. 700.
Gavin has flaunted his legs by walking over to Colin in his wheelchair and ripping the toy out of his hands.
You guys can fight about. Actually, maybe some of you guys can figure it out. So you got that one there. Hang on, I'll put the price back up as to what it went for. And Colin there. I can't do the maths, so you guys can fight over it amongst yourselves. So
no, I think Colin is closer.
Yeah, I think you're right too. Yeah, as I said, I'm shit out of maths. So there you go.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Yes, Colin wins. Well done. All right, well done, kiddies. So any final words before we move on to something very, very exciting regarding? In fact, you know what? No, I'm not even going to let you talk because you know why? It's commercial time. So while everybody's paying attention as to what's going on, we've got something very, very, very exciting to announce. 2 shows that are coming up, and one of them is brand spanking new. So first things first, in case you're interested, even though we've been talking about Star Wars, absolutely fantastic, we do actually have to talk about Star Trek. Oh, Mr. Aaron, you and I are talking about good old Star Trek Picard Season 2 on Monday night. How good's this?
Yep, Dags and I are going to lock ourselves into a soundproof room and we're going to binge all 10 episodes. And then we're going to come on the next day and we're going to talk about what we just saw.
Very, very cool. So if you've been watching good old Star Trek Pilchard, on Monday night, we're going to sort of dissect it and chat about it and see what it's all about. I'm still a few episodes behind, so no spoilers, please. And you can come and check it out and join us. And as always, it'll be a live show, so you can comment accordingly. And yes, there will be spoilers.
Yeah. Surely this has got to be better than Legend of the Sea Devils.
At least I'll be interested in this one. So there you go, fans. So that's Monday night. So make sure you come and check it out. This is our lead-in before we start doing an episode-by-episode review of Kenobi at the end of the month. Yay, team. But the biggest news we've got to mention here tonight, fans, is that starting of May the 17th, we've got a brand new series coming to good old Sci-Fi Zone. And guess what? It's not even Aaron and myself. And Mr. Aaron, tell us all about it.
So we're launching a new show here on the channel. It's called Toys on Trial. And anyone who comes into the shop on the weekends might have bumped into Rod, who works there, who's a big toy fan and a collector himself. And he and his friend Mike are going to be hosting this show. And it's basically going to be a nostalgic and loving look at bad toys and a bit of a ribbing of the toys that we might love from our childhood, but NQR. So Toys on Trial starting in 2 weeks. Check it out. You'll probably like it.
So there you go, fans. So if you're interested, it'll be live, as you said, May the 17th. 6 episodes. We do everything in 6 episode lots here. And be sure to come along and have a bit of a sticky beak. Obviously, there'll be more promotions about it closer to the day, and it should be very groovy. But the fact that there'll be some new people on the show, giving their thoughts and views about the products will be absolutely fantastic, and you get to hear different voices, different opinions about things. So how good is that?
I have a
They're
question.
not toys, they're collectibles. That's a very good point there, Mr. Chris. Unless they're out of the box, then they're...
I have a question. You said we do these shows six at a time. What number episode is this of Rip It Off the Card?
That should have been the ultimate trivia question that I was going to ask at the start of the show, but I couldn't be bothered counting all the episodes up. But apparently James is sitting there trying to watch them all, which is, see, the poor pity, the poor bastard.
Well,
anyway, how good is that? What, you going to say something before we move on?
When does my check come in for doing all this?
Yeah, your check is what I get from when I work for you, which is like a lot of zeros and not much else. All right. So, yes, be sure to check the show out in a couple of weeks' time and give the guys some support. So it'll be very, very groovy. All right. So that actually brings us right on to 9 o'clock and our time for our feature presentation. Because it is May the 4th, good old Star Wars Day, EA team. What are we discussing tonight, Mr. Aaron?
Well, as it's May the 4th, we're gonna sit back, talk about every single movie and the merchandise that we just thought was the best merchandise that encapsulated that movie. So we're not looking at everything. We're just talking about our favorite things, or maybe some of the things that were the most popular or most iconic with the movies. So sit back, listen to us with our dulcet tones, wax on for the next hour about our favorite Star Wars merchandise.
Or you can feel free to fall asleep. Yeah, so there's obviously a lot that's been produced for all the movies over the past 40 years. And everybody will have their favorites, things that they go, oh, yeah, I've got one of these. I mean, as we know, Gavin is a huge Yoda collector, and he's probably got a lot of Yodas that he absolutely adores. But we're picking out the certain things that go, you know what, they really stood out from the crowd. And it is funny that all 9 movies from the saga movies, and including Rogue One and Solo, all had merchandise produced, some more than others. But it'll be interesting to sort of share our thoughts with the people out there and to hear what you guys have to say as well. But, of course, you've got to kick it all off with a bit of the old New Hope, mate.
Well, really, A New Hope kicked off toy merchandising in movie tie-ins in a whole different way. You could say it sent merchandising into hyperspace. And the cornerstone of all Star Wars collecting and of the popularity of Star Wars in the toy shops was the $1.99, $2.99 Star Wars figures, the first 12 that came out. So popular that they sold empty boxes to kids so they could get the money for them before they were actually produced. Now, I was a bit young. I was born in 73. I did see Star Wars when it came out originally, and it blew my little mind. It was one of the first live action movies I can remember. I remember the toys in the shop. I wanted them. I was too young to buy a lot of them because I didn't have the spending power. My first Star Wars figure was C-3PO from Venture, and I remember Empire Strikes Back was out because I went to Venture and they had the Empire cards, but I wanted the original C-3PO. Did you ever buy Star Wars figures, Dags, when you were growing up?
Yeah, I mean, as a 10-year-old kid, absolutely. And there was only 12 to get, so it was just the natural thing to buy all the 12. And the funny thing is, and just going back to this picture, the Jawa down here is the cloth cape version. I never saw, I don't remember ever seeing the vinyl cape version. I only ever saw the cloth one, but myself and the friends that I had at the time, buying the 12 figures. And because at the time, when they came out, you thought, that's it. No more. Yeah. Done. Right? That's it. I've got my 12. Yay, team. You lose the guns and the weapons or whatever because we all took them out of the packets. And that was as far as it went. Then suddenly there's a series 2. And I go, with the Greedo and all the Cantina aliens and whatever. Who knew where it was going to lead decades later? But it was because there was so little available, especially if you're on a limited budget. You think, well, the action figures are like the bee's knees. I get them, mate, I'm cooking on gas.
I loved collecting action figures, the Star Wars ones in particular, because today they release waves of stuff and figures come and go. Back then, you could have hopped on during Return of the Jedi and every single figure was still available. And I thought that was fantastic. And, it had a checklist on the back of the boxes. And what I absolutely love seeing today is we buy a secondhand collection and someone's card backs will come in and you can see which ones they had because, they used to mark off what they had and they had a third of the collection or half the collection. We gave some of our card backs when we were growing up to relatives because we said, circled the ones we had and go, you can buy any of the other ones. Star Wars collecting, especially with the figures, is a big nostalgic pull for me.
Yeah, it's kind of funny you should mention that because the very first episode of this show that we did at March last year actually talks about Star Wars card backs and how, even as you've mentioned, even today, the card backs themselves, despite their condition, still hold some value, especially if they're the original ones. And it's just kind of like mind blowing that that was the case because back then we just opened the packets and just threw them all away. And you are right. By the time we got to Return of the Jedi, they obviously Kenner and all that had said, "Oh yeah, we need to market every single character we can ever find in the entire universe." All these background dudes. And you think if they had done that with A New Hope, a lot more Cantina aliens may have all been created from the first series or the first wave. But who knew at the time? So there you go. Now,
One of my friends, Zach, has joined us and left a
yeah,
comment. And I was grown up a bit, and he was a little boy and used to come into my shop in Camberwell and do the same thing. But it was the next generation with the Power of the Force stuff that started in 95. So it's a nostalgia thing for us, but it's one of those things I think Star Wars has sort of beat the odds by being multi-generational. And there are kids today who I'm sure will grow up and still have that same nostalgic feeling for buying Star Wars figures.
we saw a guy who worked there in the paper. We went down and got his. I don't know. It might have been Shane Morrissey. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure.
That was me.
Oh, it was you. Okay, yeah, cool. Oh, okay, it was a joke. Yeah, gotcha. So obviously, as kids, you go, you beauty, you'll get all the action figures. Absolutely fantastic. It's the greatest thing in the entire universe. But then you look at the top end of the shelf and you go, look at the size of that. Look at the size of that thing. And of course, that was something that you go to your mother or your father, you go, can I have one of those? They go, nah. And of course, it was an aluminium Falcon.
Yes. Now, the Millennium Falcon is, of course, one of the early vehicles. And again, it was available Star Wars, Empire, and Jedi in different boxes. I think the original Millennium Falcon is one of the greatest toys that was ever made last century. It's up there with Castle Grayskull and a couple of other things that every little boy wanted growing up. I cannot think of any kid in my class, even if they weren't a huge Star Wars fan, that wouldn't have wanted a Millennium Falcon.
Moneybag said he had one of these. A lot of people who had money, funny enough, Moneybag Sullivan would have had one. You are right. And of course, as you know, I mean, there's so few of them around today in good condition. They've all got bits missing everywhere, haven't they?
Well, the thing is, it's spawned a science, hasn't it? Because a lot of these have turned yellow, and there's Star Wars fans that worked out the whole peroxide thing to de-yellow stuff just to keep their toys in better condition. The Millennium Falcon, again, it's great because they took scenes from the movie and managed to incorporate it into the toy, even though it isn't screen accurate. So you've got the little panels that lift up that you can hide the figures in. You've got the gunner station that you can reenact fighting the TIE fighters. Now, if a toy comes out and it's electronic, it needs to say and do a million things. This was electronic, and you pushed a button that turned an engine, and it just made a whine. But that whine just added so much to the playability of the toy.
No, totally agree. Zach's got a question. I'm going to come to it in a second. One of the things that I find interesting now that you know, it's amazing if you only knew then what you know today. I think one of the biggest issues about producing large toys and large boxes is keeping the box itself in mint condition, because it's like lugging around a small fridge in some cases. And over the decades, a lot of people would say, yes, I've still got a boxed aluminium Falcon, but it's the boxes have been bashed and damaged from, transporting from house to house. I mean, it was over 4 decades ago, but to have a mint boxed one, if that makes sense, I reckon you could just be commanding some massive price tags, because a lot of the boxes just didn't survive the journey. Now, there's a question here from Zach. What's our favorite Star Wars toys? Can only choose one. You go first.
Probably the original IG-88, just because I read the storybook and saw this amazing droid before the movie and built up this whole how he was going to be amazing, bounty hunter. And then the toys came out, and I bought the toy before I saw it. And then I saw the movie, and he stands there and his head rotates a little bit. But for me, it's just the adventures I had with that IG-88 as a little boy were absolutely fantastic. So not Luke or Vader or Boba Fett, but probably just the original IG-88.
All right, I'm going to answer the question in a second because I've actually got a picture of it. So Gavin said that he had the novels and the posters from the cereal box. Thomas, I think, is born in the mid-'80s, was Star Wars all there was. That's true. Okay, and Rusky Babes, yeah. I mean, yeah, I didn't like because they were overpriced and inaccurate. And you are right. I mean, you didn't. If you're someone who's like looking for spaceships who looked absolutely screen accurate in terms of their size, that wasn't going to be the case. Like with the Millennium Falcon, they couldn't make it screen accurate or get the ratio correct for the action figures. The thing would have been gigantic, so they've had to compromise in some areas. And sometimes they cocked up. I mean, with the TIE Fighter, the solar panels are really small. they didn't release the scale, didn't work. But it's what you could get at the time, and as a kid, you probably didn't know any different. So to answer Zach's question, my favorite one, because I didn't have a lot of toys at the time, was of course the 12-inch figures and the Darth Vader. Here, being the big Darth Vader fan that I was, getting that was my prized item. So it was the only one I ever got, and I was absolutely rapt to get it. So yeah.
Well, the 12-inch figures are interesting because when I grew up, and this seems to be, I've talked to different collectors and they remember this, no one could afford all the 12-inch figures because they were a bit more than the normal action figures. So everyone in class who used to play Star Wars would get their parents to buy one. So, you'd have the Chewbacca, or you'd have the Luke, or you'd have the R2, and each one would bring one in to play at school, but no one ever had more than one. I remember one of my friends had a C-3PO and an R2-D2, and that must have been Moneybag Sullivan who had that. But no one had two. But the really funny thing I remember, no one would buy a Princess Leia, and it was only if you had a sister that you'd get your sister to buy the Princess Leia doll, and then you'd borrow it to bring into school. But you'd make sure everyone knew that it was not your dolly, it was your sister's, and you were only bringing it in begrudgingly so you could play with the other Star Wars toys. I mean, it's amazing, the nostalgia. I think this is one of those things that oral history keeps it alive, but a lot of people forget just how little boys were back in those days.
Yeah, it's a good point, actually. And ironically, these days, I mean, a lot of those boys who have now grown up to be adults be thinking, shit, I wish I had one of those mint in box still. I found it interesting that of all the large figures all came with accessories, but good old 3PO, if I recall, didn't come with anything at all. You just took him out of the box and there he was. There was no extra attachments like guns and medals and all that other stuff. So it's kind of boring in comparison. So there you go.
Well, who would have thought that a protocol droid would be so popular with the kids?
Yeah, exactly right. And I think it's been mentioned in previous shows that I think Spankin, who actually still has them all mint in box. I mean, some of the boxes are a little bit tattered, but he still got them all, and good on him too, because there's a bit of value there. But when the 12 inches came out, I was like, oh my God, that is like the coolest thing ever. If you could afford them, I just needed the one. I got the one, and I was happy with that. Speaking of 12 inches, you would have thought you covered off a lot of the Star Wars line. Oh, Empire's coming out. They're going to be all these characters. But no, they only did the two. As you mentioned, IG-88 was one of them, and Boba Fett was the other.
Now, we saw in the last slide we had all the 12 inches, but the Boba Fett one obviously gets his own slide. And this is my first pick for the most iconic items from Empire Strikes Back. And by the way, as we go through this, we're not just doing the ones that came out during the time. We're doing all Empire Strikes Back and all Star Wars. But this was an amazing character, and it sold well before they had even released the movie. I think there's something about the design that even if there wasn't a movie, Boba Fett would have been, if he'd fought the Bionic Man or something, he would have been a popular character because of the design. The strength in the design is so strong, but you know that it's popular before you even see it in anything.
It's very funny you should mention that, because I was in primary school and I had my best friend come up to me and he mentioned, there's this new character coming out in The Empire Strikes Back called Boba Fett. And when I've mentioned this before, but when you look at that image just there, which at the time I think was the only image we ever had of him, he looks so freaking cool. You go, I don't know who he is or what he does, but geez, I tell you what, my buttons are getting pushed. So yes, I'm hearing you, dude. So absolutely fantastic.
Who would have thought from such humble beginnings we have had such superlative TV as the Book of Boba Fett 40 years later?
Yeah, good on you. You are right. He does a turkey neck. I think you mean a turtleneck, but there you go. Zach has asked, why do you think Boba Fett was so popular with the release of Empire? I think that image has got something to do with it. Typically, it's because you don't know. And, of course, at the time, we thought he was going to be the major bad guy in the entire show. But I don't know. I think it's the T-Vise on the helmet myself, personally.
Like I said, if you look at toys in the day, most of the toys, Star Wars was the first movie that really was merchandised. All the other toys just came out as toy lines. If Boba Fett had came out as a toy line without Star Wars, I think that design would have still done amazingly well, because he just looks amazing. So that's why I think Boba Fett has lasted the test of time with, 2 lines in the movies and hardly any screen time. And there's people who just go, he's my favorite character, and fill the whole house with merchandise of him.
I do love it when Rusky Babes puts out a fun factoid, and the thing is, I think everybody already knows this. It's all about the fact that the rocket firing Boba Fett had to be replaced because the thing was a choking hazard. We actually mentioned this on an episode about 4 or 5 episodes ago, but no, good on you, Mr. Rusky Babes, for bringing that out. Just in case someone there goes, oh, I didn't know that. So there you go. Gotta love those fun factoids. Keep them coming on. Very, very cool. Now, for Star Wars, you get the aluminium Falcon that comes out, and you go, "Oh my god, I can't afford that all for love or money. They're just way, way, way too expensive." So the Empire Strikes Back comes out, and you go, "Oh, okay, the aluminium Falcon's been chucked out the window. What have we got to replace it?" You look up, and you see this enormous box, and you go, "Oh, what kidney do I have to sell to get one of these?" And of course, it's the old AT-AT Walker. He's like, "My God, look at that! He's awesome."
Another one of those toys that I think is one of the best toys of all time that every boy would have wanted. Interestingly, with what you were saying, Dags, totally out of scale, but it didn't matter.
Yep.
They're way too small. They could never crutch a snow speeder or anything, but that did not matter because they fit the figures in and they had so much playability. You could position them and they looked like they were walking around. They would stomp on an action figure and that would be it. If you had that in your toy arsenal, all the rebels would be dead.
Yeah, the worst part was I didn't even know anybody who had one of these, so I didn't get to see one of these for like freaking 15 years after the fact. It's like, which one of my friends has got one of these so we can play with it? Nah, none of them.
Well,
It's just way out of their price
my
range.
funny story about that is that was the AT-AT was the same price as the really huge Galaxy Explorer Lego set. I think they were both $90, and I thought I'd get at least one of them for my birthday or Christmas, but got neither.
Unbelievable. So yeah, that is. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, because you look at the head and you look, the scales will last about, but it's like, hey man, it doesn't really matter. It just looks really, really groovy, and you could just imagine when it was produced and they stick it in the toy shop in say Myer, the 6th floor of Myers in the city, and little kids look at that thinking, mate, I've got to get me one of those. And yes, I can't imagine many of those stayed in boxes at the time. So yes,
it is interesting.
Very, very cool.
A vehicle that's totally impractical and would be a nightmare in a war because you think it'd be so easy to knock over, yet captures the imagination so well it becomes an iconic toy that everybody wants.
Totally agree with you. There's a comment from the Vile. I haven't read it all. Do you know the Sith Lord's big nose Max Rebo when we're going to Paul Green go Dodger find the other there's a female favorite. He's singing songs now. Oh my god, unbelievable! All right, now I really do feel like my ears have been violated. So there you go. All right, this is one for Gavin. I reckon this is absolutely fantastic. They make a puppet of this fantastic character, and he does one move in the entire thing.
Well, this is interesting because I've had Hot Toy Yodas and different scale Yodas and action figures, and this is still my favorite Yoda. I think they managed to capture Yoda's essence in this puppet so amazingly well. Used to stand him with my 12-inch figures, and he seemed about the right scale. And as a bonus, I've slipped in the Empire Strikes Back poster, which is about my favorite poster from the whole 9 Star Wars movies, but I had to slip it in.
Yeah, I love the fact that you put the puppet, you put your hand up the puppet, and all it does is the head nods forward, and that's it. It doesn't do anything else. It's like the most useless puppet of all time. Good old Jim Henson wouldn't have gone for that. Zach has asked one of the toys you wanted but never got. I'll let you answer that.
It was probably the AT-AT would have been my greatest desired toy to get, and I never got. My parents it was just too expensive. So I think one Christmas I thought I was going to get, like I said, the AT-AT or the Galaxy Explorer from Space Lego, which was the giant Lego spaceship. And then I got to my birthday and there wasn't a box big enough. So already before I was opening presents, I was like, well, this year's a write-off.
Size matters not. I can't remember actually. It was just I think it was just overwhelming at the time, and I mean I was a realist and you thinking, I don't know, I just can't remember. I mean maybe the Walker, as you said, some of the TIE fighters, I just can't remember. So, yeah, it was very, very groovy. I love this one. Rusky Babes knows how to bring the tone of a show down, right? And some of this I already knew. Julian Glover drives the AT-AT in Empire and was in Docky Who. Trust you to bring up freaking Doctor. Now Greg King, who's fallen asleep, is going, oh, did someone mention Docky? Oh, dear. Gavin's mentioned he had states of varying condition of AT-AT walkers. That would have been very, very common. We've even had them in the store before. But, yeah, getting a box one, as I said earlier, big-ass box in mint condition, that would be next to impossible. And if you got one, then good on you for that. And, yeah, his dog is a chew toy. Yeah, there you go. Model from it. So there you go. Very, very cool. All right, so we're going through, you go through A New Hope. We're sort of going through this relatively quickly. You got the Empire, you got the big ass AT-ATs, and you go, oh my God, okay, let's just scale it down a little bit for good old Return of the Jedi. What was the coolest thing about Return of the Jedi? Fluky Luke had a new lightsaber. How good's this?
Well, he did, and I remember, because green is my favorite color, just about wetting myself when I saw the trailer. And yes, it's a sonic screwdriver, but with a blade. when Luke ignited the lightsaber in the trailer and it was green. And I guess a few people know this. It was only green because it was originally meant to be blue, but they couldn't see it against the sky on Tatooine, so they changed the
Dude,
color to green.
You're supposed to say it's a rip it off the card fun factoid.
No, I think Russell has trademarked those. If we use that term, we have to pay him every time we say it.
Good point. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. So these are a couple of different replicas of that lightsaber. I think it is an absolutely stunning design. It's simple and it's clean, but it's got such a great look to it. And out of all the lightsabers, I do love Vader's as well, but I think this is the best one. You can get the hilt as a replica, or you can get the special effects ones with the light up blades, and you can get ones with removable blades. There is a particularly nice one made by Masters Replica where you can actually take it apart and it has all the internal workings and put it back together and then put the blade in. That goes for several $1,000s now. I haven't seen even one for sale for quite a while. Fantastic item.
So Gavin's made a point about saying Luke built the saber at the beginning of the Jedi. Funnily enough, it's in the novelization, right? If you ever read the novelization that Luke builds in Ben's hovel, if I recall. And of course, you didn't see it in the movie. And unbeknownst to anybody, it was a deleted scene. And I go, because whatever you read in the novel has usually been filmed because it came from the screenplay. And of course, it got added back in for one of the DVD or Blu-ray releases. Oh my God! But if you're a bit of a nerd, you'd be sitting there thinking, where did he get his kyber crystal from? But let's not worry about those details, shall we? It was very, very cool. And I can imagine someone watching the show thinking, oh my God, is that the reason why it's green? Because I couldn't see the blue against the sky. Aaron, legend, fun factoids are us. Oh dear. And it was also on the trading cards as well. Nice indeed. Very, very cool. All right. So lightsabers, they come, they go. But what's the coolest thing about Star Wars? Of course, it's speed. Things going fast, really effing fast. And nothing goes super fast more than a biker scout on a speeder bike.
Now, this is a more modern collectible, and we will look at a couple of the Hot Toys, but it's you can't deny it. Hot Toys have probably produced the best Star Wars figures for accuracy that have ever been produced. And the Biker Scouts were already an amazing design. I remember seeing Return of the Jedi and thinking, oh, they're like a stormtrooper, but better. And then the speeder bikes were absolutely amazing. I remember seeing them in the trailer and seeing pictures of them in the cards before I actually saw the movie. And then the movie just blew me away. It is one of those scenes where you can actually feel the movement in the seat of the cinema when you're going through the forests of Endor. So captures your imagination as a kid, and then as an adult, the amazing accuracy of these figures is just impressive.
Just getting back to the lightsaber thing for a second. Rusky Babes has said he liked the ones, he's talking about the lightsabers, which are crap torch or the crap bit of plastic. So the first lightsabers they ever produced were actually an inflatable blade, blow it up. It was yellow. I don't know why it was yellow, but it was yellow anyway, right? The problem was that as soon as you moved it, the whole thing would bend, right? Like be floppy as. So then for Empire, they produced plastic ones, and the hilt was this big black plastic thing. And the blade was this long, big plastic thing. And of course, they had air gaps at the top and the bottom. So the idea is that when you swung, the air would go woo, woo. That's where the noise came from. Now, other than the fact that the blade was never straight, it'd always be on a bit of a bend, they were great. And you couldn't fight with them. They were useless. They just But they looked absolutely, as a kid, Mickey Mouse. I remember seeing those thinking, oh, my God, they are awesome. And that was actually what Russell was referring to. So there you go. Remember those two?
We were never allowed to have lightsabers as kids because me and my brother would have beaten the crap out of each other with them.
Yeah. He's our friend Ronnie. Yeah, new version of the saber shortly. I love that. Fantastic. Now, it's very interesting. So getting back to here, it's a great design. The violence in it, but how stupid is in the forest. I think the idea being, because you don't see this, in the helmet is actually all this digital readout shit that's going on. So they can see all around the place rather than just straight ahead. That was also mentioned somewhere.
Also the blades at the front are meant to help avoid collisions as well.
Yeah, that's going to work, isn't it? Like when he crashes into a tree, it didn't help that well, didn't it? But yeah, I mean, when the biker scouts and the speeder bikes, and you're right, this entire sequence was absolutely magic. And so when they produce these items, you go, oh, that is just grouse. And put them in any forest setting, and they look good stuff. We are being vile worthy. Absolutely true. So very, very cool. Yes, good stuff. Love it.
And this is another item. people might not have seen, but this is a bit of a doubly amazing item because it's the prop replica of the thermal detonator, but you also get Carrie Fisher's autograph with it. So I put this one in. It's a very cool paperweight, really, but it's from an iconic scene with Carrie Fisher, one of my favorite actresses. So this is one of those things I've never owned. When they came out, I thought they were a bit expensive. Now they're, of course, 10 times as much, and you can't even find them for sale. But what an amazing item.
I love it. This is going back to the where did Luke get the kyber crystal for his lightsaber? I love this one from Grant said he purchased the blue one from Ronnie, but he got sent a green crystal instead. Very, very cool. Yes, a thermal detonator. Yes, how cool is that? So if you ever try and negotiate with your boss for a pay rise, just bring in one of these. So
if you bring one of those, I'll take it off you and sell it.
Add a couple of extra zeros on top of the one on top at the beginning. Love it. Very, very cool. But no, I've never seen that before. So yeah, good stuff. Well done. All right, so we cut off the original trilogy. So the only thing we can do now is go way, way back in time from the Star Wars perspective, but forward in time is from our perspective. It's time for a Phantom Menace.
Yeah, and I've gone for a bit of an unusual one for the first Phantom Menace item. It's, of course, Star Wars Racer based on the pod races on Tatooine. Nintendo launched this with a special system that was a Star Wars themed box. And it was I'm not a race car game player, but this was an amazing game. And it really captured the feel of, being in a pod and playing pod races, and you could upgrade your pods and make them go faster and enter different races and unlock different tracks. So it was a really fully immersive game that I think a lot of people, and especially kids who grew up through the era, absolutely love. Still a popular game and always sells when we get it secondhand even. Did you play Star Wars Racer?
No, I was sort of past the gaming thing at this point, but yeah, anything to do with speed and racing, you can't go wrong. And I guess it's the closest thing to racing cars in Star Wars that you can possibly get. So, so yeah, very, very cool. Another thing that was cool, of course, it was a lot of merchandise. We discussed this in a previous episode, the amount of Phantom Menace stuff, and a lot of it really was complete tripe. But some of the stuff that did come out was actually really, really good. And of course, there was one particular character that a lot of people just completely dial into. Even today, they still do to a large degree. Is the Maul with it all?
It is, and I've gone for the Hot Toys Darth Maul as well, just because it's the best looking one. But really, probably the breakout character from the Phantom Menace was Darth Maul. He surprised everyone when he appeared because no one expected a Sith that was going to look like that. I remember the front cover of Star Wars Insider was the first time I saw him, which was basically an entire cover just of his face. And I thought, you know what, if they're going to give Darth Vader a run for his money as a bad guy, this guy is going to be the one that does it. The toy is absolutely amazing. I mean, you can look at the pictures of that, and it could almost be the actor or shots from the actual movie. I know the backgrounds do help, but even the lightsabers with motion blur on, Hot Toys have produced those, so that's not fake. You can get lightsabers that have a motion blur, so it looks like the toy is in motion. The deluxe version is at the bottom there, and it comes with the Sith speeder, but I don't think you even need that. Probably you'd always display Darth Maul with his double-ended lightsaber, which Dags and I have talked about before. How silly was it that they revealed that on the trailer and didn't leave it as a surprise for the movie?
Yeah, exactly right. And even Moneybag Sullivan has made a point of it as well. There are a couple of things that they do in the movies that you sometimes think, oh, it sells the tickets. People go, oh, I want to see more of that, so they go and see it. But because when it appears in the movie, it's wasted because you've already seen it. And I'd said that if they didn't put that in the trailer at all, have him just hold the one end, cut, and then in the movie the other end comes out, people would have gone completely bananas. But by then we'd already seen it. Same thing with Vader appearing in Rogue One. They kind of ruined it by putting him in the trailer, but they had to from a marketing perspective. So I get it, but it kind of spoils the surprise at the same time. But yes, that sent the whole saber building industry in complete overdrive. Suddenly they can be popping out in all sorts of directions. And it was, if anybody's going to do it in a Star Wars movie, it was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
This one, I got to say, was very, like with a lot of Phantom Menace, a lot of rubbish, right? But there are some things that they went really to town on. And, of course, this time they had a lot more, a female character they could really focus a lot of time and energy on. And, of course, that was good old Armadillo. I know I shouldn't say that, but anyway. And, of course, the elaborate gowns and things she was wearing was a complete, knockout for a whole lot of female fans, especially costumers and all the rest of it. And, of course, once they started producing the dolls with her gowns, it's like, mate, how impressive was this?
Well, these were available when the Phantom Menace originally came out, and they actually, I think, for a Hasbro product, gave Hot Toys these days a run for their money. I don't imagine them being able to do it much better. These were originally quite expensive. The portrait collection, there were 3 different dolls, but I think this is the best one. It does show you just how intricate and amazing Amidala's costume was. You don't see a lot of cosplayers do it, just because it must be so hard to do the makeup, the hair, get all the layers of clothing. When you watch the makings of, all the material they used was vintage material and vintage beading, so it would just be a nightmare trying to replace or get a replica of that costume. And these just turned up in Toys R Us, and I was blown away. Even as, you know, a male, I collect all the female figures as well, and this was one of the best dolls I'd ever seen. It was, at that point, one of the best dolls I'd ever seen released, and it was for Star Wars.
Yeah, it was good that with Phantom Menace, they did say with Amidala, okay, we're going to go completely to town on all your outfits. And as Moneybags has said here, they kept changing outfits left, right, and center. So from the original trilogy, where Leia, who's the main female, didn't get to change outfits much at all, to this, where it's completely to town. And you are right, a lot of people did try the whole costuming thing, and I knew a few people, and like one of the dresses she wears actually has lights in it, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
But you know, it finally opened up this entire avenue of toy collecting that people had never seen before, or collectible collecting. And it was good that they did that. I mean, they didn't do it for all of her outfits, but what they did do was like a real eye-opener. Go, boy, fair bit of time and effort's been put into that. So well done to them.
There is a classic episode of French and Saunders that parodies episode 1, and every time Amidala walks from one room to another room, she's in a different costume when she goes through the door.
Very, very cool. Zach is come on to me, favorite prequel film and why. I'm going to tell you, it's the next one coming right up. And of course, it is Attack of the Clones, which I absolutely adore. But I'll get into the further details after you've said your bit.
Well, the Attack of the Clones was a bit of a shift in gears for the Star Wars movies, because it was the first time we had seen large-scale war. Not just a small group of people, but like artillery and battalions and millions of clones and hundreds of Jedis and insect people and stuff like that. Very hard to pick favorite toys, but I tell you what, if you want to display your toys, having the Geonosian arena as a backdrop is absolutely amazing. If you can get 2 of them and do an extra big arena, even better. But it's multiple levels, so it works well to display your figures. It's got the gallery where you can have the bad guys. It's got the doors where you can send a Reek out or the battle droids out. And then it's got the arena base with pegs to hold your figures up, so you can have clones, Jedi, battle droids, destroyer droids, C-3PO with the battle droid head, anything you want.
Yeah, funnily enough, you've actually got one of these in your store on display, which is actually used as a display, which is particularly groovy. So, yeah, I've never even seen that before, actually, until your store. So there you go. So, Zach, just very, very quickly, I loved Attack of the Clones. I saw it, I think, 5 times in the first 4 days. All those screenings I got for free because I was all with the Star Walking fan club at the time. As Aaron mentioned, I love the fact you finally got to see the start of the Clone Wars. We'd heard about it for decades previously. What was the Clone Wars? We finally get to see that and the relationship between Anakin and Padme. It's like the forbidden love that cannot occur no matter how much you try and wheel and deal with all these issues. And he's trying to figure it out, and she's saying, no, you can't do it. And, of course, in the end, they end up together. And finally, you can see his progression from trying to be a good Jedi or a good Padawan, and he ends up sort of going down the gurgler with what happens with his mother and all the rest of it. So I've had to keep it very, very short as to why I love it. But aside from the bits, as you said, with 3PO's head being on the wrong droid body and a couple of other dumb bits, and they were dumb bits, absolutely love Attack of the Clones. I'm a huge fan of it.
What a drag. But
yeah, I'm quite beside myself. Yeah, exactly right.
The other thing that people take for granted but forget at the time, it was a massive, massive revelation that the clones were good in this movie. Everyone thought they were going to be an army of stormtroopers coming to invade, and they were good. People forget that now, that the clones are good. It blew people's minds.
That is a very good point. Yeah, when we first heard about the Clone Wars, everybody assumed that they were the bad guys. Oh, the clones must be fighting the Jedi. Who knew they're on the same side as the Jedi? I remember seeing the start of the Clone Wars, with the whole battle sequence, and I thought, I'm sitting in the cinema going, this is just perfect. I am so wrapped. I loved every minute of it. And there's a whole lot of other little details as well, but we've got to move on. One of the big things that Attack of the Clones did have, whether you like it or don't like it, it is what it is. And of course, it was showing a bit of the history of the old Bubble Fett, good old Boba, and his dad. Who knew? Django.
And again, this was one of those toys when it originally came out. It was just a step above all the other toys that were available at the time. We had the 12-inch dolls. We'd already got the Star Wars ones that come back, and then they'd released them for Episode 1. For Episode 2, they released a couple of figures, but then they released this deluxe one, which was basically Boba Fett in a flight suit. Then you could put, Jango Fett, and then you could put all the armor on top of him, and he had different backpacks, different guns, different pieces of equipment that you could attach to him. Very, very posable for a figure at the time, where all the joints were actually posable, and you can see in the pictures there, you could pose him in any position. Obviously not as good as the hot toys now, but even the head was pretty good for a toy from that period. These came in and disappeared instantly. Very hard to find at the time.
Yeah, can you imagine this? Remember the sequence when was it Torn Wee rolls up to the door and opens the door? There's a kid there. Oh, Boba! And you go, holy shit! It's freaking Boba Fett. Who knew? Now, another thing that Attack of the Clones had working for it was the hardware. The hardware was spectacular. Absolutely love it. Now, this is known as a Republic gunship, but if you know what it's really called, feel free to tell me.
Well, look for that in the comments as I speak about it. The Republic gunship is probably, from the original trilogy, just from army builders and clone builders, the most desirable toy and spaceship that they made. They made this and it sold out instantly. They made it for the Clone Wars, different versions of it. There's about 5 different versions of the Republic gunship. The original one is the one that we've got in the middle there, and you can see the one on the right that has the Tauntaun, the Wampa sort of skull detail on it. What I loved about this, you could buy the gunship, but then you could buy the clones, and they came with accessories that you could add on to the gunship to make the gunship even better, which is really good toy marketing.
Now, I know for a fact he's looked this up, a low altitude assault transport, because I remember a time Moneybag Sullivan didn't actually know that. So, and he learned it from me if he learned it at all. So, yes, it's a low altitude assault transport, but he missed one bit, /I. And what's the slash for? /infantry. So yeah. Close, but no cigar there, Mr. Moneybag. So there you go. Yes, that's what it's actually called. So, but yeah, the Republic gunship, when they first arrived in Geonosis, how grouse was that? Oh, just blowing the shit out of all the droids. Oh, absolutely love it. And very cool. All right, so that was Attack of the Clones. And of course, we had to move on to what is effectively occurring tomorrow, Revenge of the Fifth. And here we go. Good old General Grievous makes an appearance. Yay, team.
Now, General Grievous is an interesting character because he was introduced in the cartoons before the movie came out, and there was a bit of a backstory, and I'm sure a lot of people didn't see those cartoons, went into the movie and go, who is this guy? Who is this General Grievous they're talking about? Why is he, so important? And how come he's all part of the story? I thought, love him or hate him, General Grievous with 6 lightsabers had an absolutely fantastic design. I don't know how he would have been coordinated for real and be able to move the lightsabers around the cape. And fight.
4. Oi. He's only got 4, not 6.
Sorry, 4. How he would have been able to do that. And interestingly enough, he lost the hands pretty quick because they actually found it too hard to animate.
I told you that. Actually, they didn't find it hard to animate. The reason was very, very quickly, the people who were doing the lightsaber choreography could not choreograph one character with 4 arms in a sword fighting thing. So they had 2 of his arms chopped off because they said, okay, 2-handed versus 2-handed is a lot easier to choreograph than 2-handed versus 4-handed. That's the reason. Well, I can't believe it. You're quoting shit that I told you. Unbelievable. But you are right.
You're a very quotable person.
That's true. You are right. So the cartoon series that came out between 02 and 05 has the whole thing about Grievous kidnapping Palpatine and all the rest of it. And of course, a lot of people didn't see that. It got aired like a week or 2 before the movie came out. And of course, the problem is that's actually not technically canon anymore. So you could argue it didn't happen. So, but be that as it may, the Grievous character, whether you liked him or not, looked absolutely schmickaroo as an action figure here. And yes, it's, even if you didn't have any idea as to who this dude was or why he was coughing his guts up, of course, that happened in the cartoon series as well, which was not referenced in the 3D series, if I recall. So, what do you reckon, dude?
Yep, that's the sideshow statue. Very cool, very hard to find. A lot of them turn up broken because he does have spindly arms,
Yep.
but still a very, very cool display piece if you can find one.
Very good. And someone once asked me, what race is he? He's a Kalish, if I'm not mistaken. Kalish warlord. Anyway.
Yeah, they're a lizard people, aren't they? I think.
Oh, I don't know. Too nerdy for me.
So,
no other.
We've got the Hot Toys Anakin, which is Darth Vader in his original form, I guess. But I thought if we're going to choose a figure for Revenge of the Sith, we've got to go for Anakin because it's where he really shone and turned into the Sith Lord that we know. Again, Hot Toys, we've talked about them a lot, famous for their amazing likenesses. This one comes with a lot of fantastic accessories, extra lightsabers, different eyes, different heads, different hands, stands, and everything. So if you are a Darth Vader fan, this is the original Darth Vader before he's inside the suit.
Just going back to Grievous, Rusky Wave said, why does Robot, which is Grievous, actually more of an android, if you will, or a cyborg, need a cape? Well, for one thing, he carries all the lightsabers in it. They're his pockets. So maybe that's the only reason. Yes, a fun factoid from me. Absolutely fantastic. Thomas has come up with some really fancy comment. Grievous can feel a program and its flaws pick up on the algorithm. Yep, that's very, very cerebral for me, Thomas. You have to keep it a bit more simpler. I'm a very simple sort of dude. For the same reason, God needs a starship. There's always time for a Star Trek reference. What can I say? Extra swing time. Love it. But yes, good old Anakin Skywalker looking very, very groovy. Paint the yellow eyes and suddenly got Darth Vader there. Very good stuff. Hang on, I'm going to push the button and we're off and running.
And this is the last one I chose for Revenge of the Sith. It's a more modern set. It's a Lego set, and it's actually the arrest of Palpatine. So when those classic Jedi go into Palpatine's chambers and just get knocked off, easily, there is a different cut of the movie where apparently there is a longer fight there, and they put up a bit more resistance than they ultimately do in the final cut. What I think is great about the Lego version, the Jedis don't have to get killed straight away. If you were a kid, you can play lightsaber battles with them for quite a while. You can decide if they arrest Palpatine or not. It's a really iconic scene from the movie and a fantastic Lego set. Lego tends to do a lot of spaceships and not so many play sets. And when they do a play set, it always seems to be one that has a lot of playability and is quite a special set. And of course, it has, I think, 6 figures that are only available in that set, which of course means the set's worth a fortune because everyone's after the figures.
Absolutely love it. Talk about this is a fun factoid, which is completely stupid, right? Fun factoid: Doctor Who had sword fights years before Star Wars. Well, the fact that it came out 15 years prior probably has something to do with it. They had plenty of time to stick a sword fight in there, old son. So, yay, team. And Zach agrees with you. A great Lego set, hard to find. I like how they've done that with Palpatine here. He's really got the aggro face on, hasn't he? So, good old Sidious isn't the happiest camper of all. So,
and an interesting fact there. The hilt of Palpatine's lightsaber in that Lego set is the top of Rey's staff in the Force Awakens set. So there's a bit of foreshadowing in that one.
You know why? Because there was a staff shortage.
There's going to be a staff shortage of Aaron.
Sometimes I amaze even myself. Daniel's cracked the shits over the Docky Who. Yeah, there you go. At least you're spelling it correctly. I like the sound of that. So there you go. Very, very good. Oh, well done, Gavin. Shove that one up your funkin' waggles. If it's the Rusky Babes, Errol Flynn was doing it long before Docky Who.
I just like to point out it wasn't me that brought in Doctor Who this time.
Yeah, exactly right. Very, very cool. Oh, my goodness gracious me. All right, so where are we going with this? So we had all the prequel trilogy stuff, right? Then we're going to jump in terms of Star Wars time, like 60-something years in the chronology of the entire thing, way over the original trilogy up to the old sequel trilogy, Force Awakens, new robots, new characters, and here we go.
This is really interesting for me because I actually are one of those fans that actually loved all 3 of the new movies, which is quite controversial. But when it came to picking merchandise for them, I just couldn't really think of anything that was iconic as the original and the prequels. But anyway, I do remember when we first saw the trailer for The Force Awakens, the first new Star Wars for 16 years, when BB-8 zoomed across the screen in the desert, that was something I had never seen before, a robot like that. And the fact that they made a practical version of it and had to invent new technology.
No, you're wrong. So with BB-8, the one you see on the stage where he's rolling around, that came out after the film was filmed. All of the BB-8 stuff in the movie was all puppet. Okay, there's
Yeah,
actually a lot of behind-the-scenes footage with rods sticking out and they're rolling them around. So what you see in the film is not what was produced after the fact. So I
I
thought
do.
I'd just point that out.
I do know that, but they did actually go ahead and produce the
They did.
actual
Yes, that's true.
robot.
Sorry, I thought you meant during production they used a real one. They didn't.
I'm just saying the first time we saw it was that trailer, and it blew people away. And then the first time I think they revealed it live on stage was at Celebration, and
Yeah.
that's where it rolled out, and it blew everyone away again that it was real and practical.
Yep,
So
totally agree. And you've actually got one of these in the store. Yeah, you might have a couple. Is that right?
yeah. So it is interesting, which just shows you, I guess how the new Star Wars is. Where this was one of the hardest products to find when it came out, and everybody loved BB-8. Now very hard to sell. So
Yeah, and I agree with you too. Once when he did arrive on screen, aside from the fact it was like the technology was like wow, but it was like okay, this is all new. The only there was a criticism that I had is that the first 6 movies had set up that like R2 and 3PO were meant to be the main cutesy droids, and R2 of course was the cutest of the two, and then suddenly he's been shoved aside. And funnily enough, in Force Awakens, he's pretty much not even there. And BB-8 was the new in robot, and I think that was anything I was critical of. But in terms of the characterization of the character, that's if you can get where I'm coming from, they did an excellent job with BB-8. So,
yes.
no denying that at all.
Yeah, okay.
Oh,
Sorry. No, go to the next one.
You sure?
Right. My other big memory of the trailer was seeing the blade ignited and then seeing the sidebars came out of the blade, and everyone sort of lost it over that because it was a new lightsaber, and the lightsaber looked angry because of the way they had animated it, where it's kind of got a rougher edge with a less controlled blade. So again, love him or hate him, Kylo Ren's lightsaber is one of those iconic items that came out and everybody loved at the time. It was impossible to get. It's hard to believe now. They got the Black Series ones in for Christmas. They sold out instantly, and then there was about a 6-month wait before they could get any more in because everyone was after them. But The Force Awakens was a lot more popular than people remember it, and the merchandise was really there. They had the midnight openings, and it was packed, and it was sort of the same mania they had with the original movies when they released stuff. Do you remember much about the Force Awakens and the Force coming back and all the fans coming back and the merchandise and the sort of mood at the time?
Yeah, there was a lot of anticipation for it, and because it was all new, it was all different. And some people were critical of the trailers; they weren't really sure of what to make of it.
Yeah.
I must admit, when I first saw The Force Awakens, I didn't like it at all. I had a lot of criticisms about it, but then over a few viewings, I changed my tone, and now I think it's the best of the 3 films of the sequel trilogy. And in the end, a lot of the details are actually really good. They really thought it out well, but of course, it had to be successful because at that point, Disney had spent so much money on the franchise. That's the reason why they copied bits from all the previous movies. We could have a long discussion about the nuts and bolts of Force Awakens. With Kylo Ren's saber, for those who want to know a bit of nerdy factoid, the reason why the blade is the way that it is, and I agree with you, it looks fantastic, even though the side bits, you'd be cutting your own hand off left, right, and center. Uses a fractured kyber crystal in it, and the things coming out the side are actually generating excess power because it's got so much power coming up the main blade. Now, that's how they explained it at the time. But there's an episode of Rebels, I think it is, where they show Jedi lightsabers from 1,000 years ago, and they had the crossblade. So it wasn't unique to Kylo Ren, even though at that point in the movie it was. Jedi actually had cross-bladed sabers back in the old days, probably using normal crystals. As to why they had the crossblades, that's anybody's guess. But that, as I understand it, but it did look good. It sounded excellent, and there's some details about it. You go, wow, if you can't have a double ender, it's the next best thing. So very, very cool. Zach said, why did not like on the first viewing? It's a bit of a discussion. I don't really want to sort of get tied up into it, but there was aspects that I didn't agree with. I didn't agree with Leia and Han not being together anymore. We had 3 movies. We set them up as a couple. Suddenly they were separated. I can't remember what a lot of the things were. There were just detail. I don't want to get into it, but there were a lot of details that didn't work for me. But after a few viewings, I've completely shifted my mindset. Now I think it's fantastic. So there you go. Oh, all right, let's go.
And we've gone for another hot toy, and this is of course, Rey hot toy, and the deluxe one comes with a BB-8. This hot toy is so good, you can pose it and take photos, and you do not know that is not Daisy Ridley. It is sometimes with hot toys, they don't get women quite right. There's something about them, you look at it and you go, oh, I don't know what it is, but it's not right. This one was absolutely spot on, and it's one of the few occasions where they show the prototype and they say, actual version may differ slightly from the prototype, and I wasn't disappointed when I got it. So this is one of those classic hot toys. The other thing people don't remember about Force Awakens, there was news stories. It was massive news that there wasn't enough Rey produced. There wasn't enough girl figures. And Rey was like the Darth Maul. She sold out everywhere and they couldn't get replacements for months. And with the toys, they come out, 4 weeks before the movie. So all the Reys had sold out before the movie came out. Then the movie came out and it was very, very popular and you couldn't get Rey anywhere. So people were buying the multiple packs just to get the Rey figure. She was an amazingly popular and iconic figure from this movie. And I guess the movies after this have maybe diminished her popularity, but at the time she was huge.
Yeah, and one of the interesting trivial parts of the entire thing, of all the characters in the film, right? Every single one of them gets wounded or injured in some way, except Rey. Not a scratch, right? But everybody else has a hard day at the office, whether it be Finn, Poe, Chewbacca, Han, all of them. They all get wounded, damaged somehow or other along the way. So it's just kind of funny. She that's left untouched.
Well,
but yeah, she was a great character, and her interaction with Finn was fantastic. So yeah, it was really, really good stuff. There's a whole lot of fun factoids coming up about Docky. I'm not even putting them on the screen anymore. I've sort of moved on. Move along. But yes, very, very cool. And yeah, she was a great character and portrayed really, really well, which was particularly groovy, especially when it got to the next movie. Holy guacamole, we got a little bit of Last Jedi.
Now, The Last Jedi is one of those controversial movies which split the fans. I went and saw it with a group of people and they were not happy with what they saw, or I was blown away by what I saw in a good way. We won't go into the plot and everything, though, but here are some of the more iconic items from the movie. This is a great display piece because it's a carry case, a play set, and also a toy kids can play with. So you've got a BB-8 figure. I guess it's about 2 foot tall. And when you open it, it's Snoke's throne room. So you've got a BB-8 toy and it opens into the throne room, which whenever you have something like this, it always displays your figures a lot better. And then when you close it up, it can act as a carry case as well. These were actually quite hard to get in Australia. I think Maya had a pile of them, but nowhere else seemed to, they didn't seem to turn up.
I mean, there were aspects of The Last Jedi that were spectacular. I mean, you're right. The whole thing with the Praetorian Guard and Leia, get tossed that again. Rey and Kylo together doing the whole fighting back to back, and you didn't know how it was going to pan out. Sure, the whole thing with the Mary Poppins thing, probably kind of like one of the downsides of the entire thing. But overall, yeah, I agree with you. It's probably a bit of a shock to the system for some people, but Last Jedi had a lot of good stuff going for it. And one of the things that it did have going for it, you had Ewoks in the original trilogy. You had, I guess you could say, Jar Jar Binks in the prequel trilogy. You needed something for the sequel trilogy. If it's not BB-8, it's got to be these dudes.
Porg. So I haven't picked one Porg. I've picked a plethora of Porg. The Porg, I do feel one of those things that maybe after they decided they were going to put them in, because these are puffins and they had to, because they couldn't edit all the puffins out of the island, they had to invent the Porg to explain what was flying around in all the scenes. And I think when they had made them and they were so cute, they were like, oh, this is going to be the next big thing. And so Porg were everywhere. I mean, I have my Porg here. So
yeah, give that to Chewbacca to eat. Yeah. Get on with it.
Okay, so that's my critters eating a Porg joke. Yes, so the Porg were everywhere. Love them or hate them. Kids loved them. They were pretty popular. And they are one of those things like Ewoks that kind of split the fans. I did like it. I did think it was funny where Chewbacca looked like he was going to eat one and all the others looked really sad. Didn't like it so much that they let them on the Falcon and come and that was a bit silly. So.
Yeah, they're a bit like tribbles breeding like rabbits. It's kind of funny. Like they're all sad about the fact that Chewie's going to eat one, but by then it's already dead. He was going to just chuck it away and then just look at this like charred corpse. It's like an Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru scenario, isn't it, with the Porg? Look, I had no problem with it. And who thought? And there was a video of it, like when they were playing with the lightsaber, one was pushing the button, the other one had his head stuck up the nozzle. I thought, oh, that's going to be an awesome moment. I love it. Yeah, get some Porg on your fork. Yeah, absolutely love it. And of course, these things were a bit of a marketing goldmine.
Yeah, so the Porg leads into the last item I've picked, and The Last Jedi didn't have a lot of great merchandise. It's interesting. The action figures sat on the shelf. The waves they did weren't the best figures, I didn't think. But the Lego, the whole wave of Last Jedi Lego was pretty good. They did a life-size Porg, which is quite an unusual choice for Lego, with the mouth that opens and closes. But then you could pretty much get every single major scene in every ship and spaceship. There's a couple of ships there that weren't in it very much, and they still produced them. My top pick again is the Porg pick, which is at the top. It's like Luke's stone house or stone hovel. You get a couple of Porg and Luke, and you get Rey with it as well. So if you're a Lego fan, you might not have done so well in the action figure department, but you're really well served with Lego for that year. And like Lego, a lot of times they brought this out before the movie, and there was a whole lot of spoilers in the Lego sets.
I look at this Porg here, and geez, he looks aggro, doesn't he, with the teeth and this, all that sort of thing. It's not the cuteness factor is sort of out the window a little bit. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I guess, they could have bred the Porg for war.
Yeah, and I think as you sort of, good point. As you pointed out, I mean, I think everybody sort of realised that producing a lot of merchandise, it was still Phantom Menace syndrome, because that was only like, 13, 14 years after the fact, or maybe more, about 16 years. Not producing too much, because then nobody ever wants it. And I think everybody was a bit afraid of going down that path. And as a result, there was not as much produced as what you think they're going to be. But one of the things that you can always guarantee they're going to produce, whether you love them or not, action figures.
Interesting you say that. The Rise of Skywalker did not have action figures produced for it at the time, so there was no Rise of Skywalker action figures. Last Jedi was still on the shelf because it sold so poorly. You could go into the shops and there'd still be 600 Rose Tico figures on the shelf when the Rise of Skywalker came out. So it took about 6 months, and when the classic carded series came back, that was the first wave of Rise of Skywalker figures, and they sold really, really well, because a lot of people were wondering why we didn't get figures. I really love the look of these figures, because it's really come full circle, where they went back to using the original packaging designs for Star Wars, Empire, and Jedi. Hasbro had done this on and off through the years, but the classic series had gone away, and because they wanted collectors back into it, what collectors wanted most was these classic series ones. So they came back, and these are a fantastic set of figures to track down.
I'm not interesting how they've done the logo. It's just, it doesn't sort of, like, it's not how they had it in the movie or anything like that. That's rather unusual. What do you reckon?
They've done that a lot with the classic series stuff. Like the Book of Boba Fett is the same. They kind of jammed it all in the Star Wars logo. Sometimes aesthetically it looks nice, and sometimes it doesn't.
There's also nice noting this guy here, and it just says Knight of Ren. And of course, there were, I can't remember, I think it was 8 or 9 of Knights of Ren, and we didn't really get to see them very well at all. So you do wonder if they just did that guy by himself, or whether they actually focused on who the others were, because you didn't get to see them. You go, well, what do they really look like? And there was just a whole lot of speculation. So if they are accurate to how they're meant to be, it's probably about the closest you're going to get, really. So there you go.
So I think they were going to be in the plot more, than then got cut right back.
Yeah, well, that's right. And of course, we didn't see much of them in Force Awakens either. So, yeah.
Yeah. And the other one I've gone for is another lightsaber, is Rey's lightsaber, because it's a really unique one, and it has the yellow blade, of course, which is unique to Rey. It's also made out of the top of her staff. She made her own lightsaber. I think this, if you were a collector, is a great lightsaber to get, because I don't think it'll be produced a lot. Every 5 years they're going to whack out Obi-Wan or Vader or Luke's lightsaber again. I think this will be a once every 20 years there'll be a demand for the Rey lightsaber kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like a dog with a bone, doesn't it? You get your Rey lightsaber, the first thing you do is kind of bury it. No, she didn't. She kept hers, didn't she? Or buried the other two. Oh, I've forgotten now. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing of a yellow blade. I mean, Jedi. What do you call it? The guards from the Clone Wars had yellow blades, but no one else ever did. And of course, she ends up with a yellow blade and confuses the shit out of everybody. Going, how'd you manage to get one of those? But
well, there's a deleted scene from Rise of Skywalker where she is actually corrupting Kylo Ren's red crystal and slowly turning it good, and that's why it's yellow. But it's deleted.
Yeah, if you do that, strictly it's supposed to come out white. That's why Ahsoka has white blades. But nerd.
Yeah. And here we wrap up the 9 movies. Now, this isn't strictly a Rise of Skywalker movie, but you couldn't have this set without the Rise of Skywalker. This is the 27 disc set of all original Star Wars movies, well, the 9 from the Skywalker saga, with 26 hours of bonus material. So if you are really the true Star Wars nerd that wants every aspect and every movie on 4K and to have a fantastic collection, and you can pull them out in trilogies and show your friends and sit down and have video nights, this is the ultimate collection for you. Have you got this?
No, but the problem will be they'll release another one somewhere down the track when there's more movies. Like 10 years from now, there'll be one with 50 hours worth of stuff. There's always one more to come. It never ends. Speaking of things that have the one in the name, it's time for a bit of this.
Rogue One. So yes, we've gone through the other movies as well. And Rogue One actually spawned a lot of amazing stuff. And one of the best characters and most favorite characters for collectors was K2SO, the assassin droid or the Imperial droid. And what I love about this is he's become infinitely more cooler after we've seen the Siege of Mandalore, where you see this and it's kind of a friendly robot, and then you see their Terminator killing machines. So I think this is a very cool droid, and it is obviously not a man in a suit type of droid, and the figure is so much taller than all the other hot toys that it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Moneybags. There's always a bigger DVD set. There's always room for one more extra disc, and if you can make it, why not? But yeah, it's good old K2SO looking absolutely spectacular there. What's the point of these guys? The shore troopers, like they run on the beach and then they just stop.
They sure look good. So I like this because it's like Boba Fett. It's not as good, but it's a better design where it's got a little bit more color in. So when you've got the ranks of stormtroopers, if you became a shore trooper, you're going to stand out with the chicks, aren't you?
They look shit, right? They look crap in the movie and they look crap here. It's like, what's the point? They run onto the beach and then they go, we can't go into the water because that means you become a water trooper. We can't walk in the bushes because then you become a normal stormtrooper. There's a stand on the beach like a turtle head. No, I reckon they're absolute rubbish. So, yes, they just completely false. But
Dags's opinion is they look shit, yet collectors all over the world think they are one of the best and most desirable troopers there is. They are very hard to get because they're very collectible.
Yeah, that means collectors got no idea what they're talking about. Just because they're collectible doesn't mean that they're good. But you got to admit, I mean, compared to stormtroopers and bloody biker scouts and that, these guys look completely pox. Let's move on. This isn't pox, though.
So this is probably the largest version of the AT-AT that's ever been
released. It's not an AT-AT, it's an AT-ACT. Get it right.
AT-ARC that's ever been released.
Yeah, it's the Australian Capital Territory version of an AT.
So apparently the movie changed because this has features in it that were originally featured in the movie and then they cut out. So there's like a zip line scene that obviously maybe the troops came out the side at some point. Now, this is an amazing toy because usually when Hasbro reissues a toy, they get the same old molds and just whack a new paint job on it. And there you go. You've got a new toy. The AT-AT or the ARC.
This one, AT-ACT. Get it right.
AT-ACT. But this one has a Nerf gun in the head. So for a year or two, Hasbro had this weird association with Nerf. So the Millennium Falcon would have a Nerf missile and things like this. So this has that extra action feature that can shoot your friend across the room.
Tell you what, I want to nerf you in the head at this rate. It's not a freaking hell. It's called an all-terrain armored cargo transport, right? And the key thing is, it was all pointed out, they're as weak as water when it comes to destroying them in the movie. But then, of course, this is before The Empire Strikes Back, so maybe the Empire learned from that and then made them a lot tougher when they produced the AT-AT.
Hold on. They explained it. Do you remember in the Atari game where the AT-AT Walker's weakness was?
What are you talking about? Oh, because that's so canon, isn't it?
The neck, and you see they shoot it in the neck.
What the hell are you talking about? Oh, it's 10 o'clock. We've got to move on, get this segment finished because we've got to move on to Solo in a sec. But no, they destroy the AT-ACTs really, really easily. And obviously the Empire learned. So now make them a lot tougher for a bloody friggin' Atari game. Oh, dude, what are you talking about? All right. Thomas got it right. It's just ridiculous. It just doesn't roll off the tongue at all. AT-ACT. Oh, go figure. Anyway, so where's the sequel? Rogue 2. Yes, that would be called A New Hope. But with the movie that came out all before all that, of course, there can only be one. It's got to be Solo.
So yeah, and this is the first book I've chosen out of the iconic merchandise. And I think with all the controversy of the release of the movie where it didn't do as well and it was reshot and all of this type of thing, people might have not realized the amount of work that went on behind the scenes. This book did give a good idea of how much work went into the making of Solo. There are droids and stuff that were created from this movie that I've watched the movie and I can't even find when I'm looking for them.
Hang on. Our audience members are telling me to get stuffed. Keep going.
So the costumes and the production and the behind the scenes is absolutely amazing. So if you like Solo, it is worth tracking down the official guide, because it isn't one of those sort of cash-in kiddie guides. It is actually quite an in-depth fan guide for anyone that likes to see some of the more in-depth stuff that's going on in the production of the movie.
So one of my own nerdy fun factoids. So you got Kira over here, right?
Yep.
Apparently, in the early drafts of the Force Awakens, Rey was going to be called Kira. Different. I don't know if it's the same spelling or not, but there you go. Nerd.
There you go. And now, how cool is this? If you want to play a card game with your friends or have a games night, you can actually get the officially licensed Star Wars version of Sabak that has the rules, the cards, the dice, and it even has the printed strips of gold that you can play for. So I actually don't remember seeing this around. I remember when it came out, there was a bit of controversy because someone had invented the game and was selling it outside of the Disney license. And then Disney goes, well, hang on, we own all of this. Star Wars, it was back in Star Wars and we own it. And they had to stop producing it and release the official version. Do you have this, Dax?
No, I've never even seen it, I don't think. One thing I will point out, though, in the original version of A New Hope, when you got on the Millennium Falcon, you got the gold dice, which are hanging like fluffy dice in the Aluminium Falcon that Chewie walks into. And for years, it was all thought that Han won the Millennium Falcon in the Sabak game using the dice. But as we saw in Solo, when he plays against Lando, there's no dice at all. So those dice are completely irrelevant as to being linked to him winning the Falcon. So, it's like that was one of those urban sort of nerdy myths for decades. And as it turned out, it wasn't. I was waiting for it in the movie. It's like, when the dice coming out? And of course, he wins by swapping the cards and shit. So, like, anyway, not to worry.
There you go.
Very, very cool. And we're going to finish. We are almost finished, kids. We're going to move on to not a movie, but a series. But of course, this is something that we had said, as Aaron and I had said, was the ultimate of cash cows in terms of merchandising. And we've been proven to be 100% correct. Yes, the friggin' Grogu, yay team. And before you say anything, I was actually surprised to see over here on this pop, it actually has his name. Normally it's the child, but it's actually got Grogu written on there, which I was really surprised to see. Over to you.
Yep. For Series 1, everything was the child, and then Series 2, they started using Grogu. So we're finishing off tonight on what Dag said, probably the biggest cash cow of the Star Wars universe since George Lucas tried to reinvent the teddy bear. This one really works, and you know why it works? Because there are people who are not Star Wars fans that love Grogu and come and buy him, and in air brackets, so air quotes, so it doesn't annoy Dags, where is Baby Yoda? Do you have Baby Yoda? And Dags always goes, excuse me, it's actually Grogu. It's not Baby Yoda.
I'm going to cut you off there. So Mark has just said Baby Yoda, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to press this button right here, and I'm going to delete his comment from Facebook, and I've just done that. Oh, dear. Gavin has said the dice represent gaming. You're probably right, Gavin, but originally it was thought that he won the Millennium Falcon with the dice, and of course that was not the case at all. Anyway, sorry, cut you off, dude. Go for it.
It's probably lucky Gavin collects Yoda and not Grogu, isn't it? Otherwise, he'd be constantly broke. There is so much Grogu merchandise out there. You can get life-size prop. You can get high-end toys from Hot Toys. It goes down to pop vinyls, and you can even get Grogu in those bubblegum machines where you put your coins in, turn it around, get out a little egg, and there's your Grogu. So really, if Star Wars was designed on George Lucas's desire to create something infinitely merchandisable, this is the item that we've end up with on our Star Wars Day.
And you know what? I mean, we're making a bit of a joke about it, but I mean, it was an ingenious concept from Lucasfilm to invent Grogu, put him in the show, make him the cash cow of the series. They're overdoing it a little bit, as we've discussed in previous episodes. But it looks good. It's brought the outsiders in and the new fan base and whatever. So good on them too. So yes, I like that Rusky Babes. Yeah, let's have a segment. Useless Grogu of the week. Absolutely fantastic. Moneybag Sullivan, the various very different variants of Sabak that require the dice. I don't give a shit, dude, because in solo he did not use the dice to win the Millennium Falcon. So you can there you go, you throw your Grogu's at that. So very, very cool. Sorry, what?
Stick that up your Kessel Run.
see how many parsecs you get out of that. Anyway, we're just a fraction over time. That's actually the end of the show for this evening. I don't know about you, but I've actually enjoyed a bit of this May the 4th thing. Sorry we had to sort of rush through it because there's a lot more we could discuss. Zach earlier had some really good questions, but they just take a long time to answer. So we've had to plow through the answers really, really fast and get through things quickly. But hopefully we've kept the interest going. What do you reckon there, Mr. Aaron?
Yeah, I thank everyone who stuck through all of that for our Star Wars themed day. I hope everyone had a good day today, whether you like Star Wars or not. And thanks for supporting the show.
And considering we're not even supposed to be mentioning Docky Who, it's been brought up that many times because everybody says, oh, anybody who's in Star Wars has been in Docky Who. We know that. It was made in England. What are the chances? Unless they had made Star Wars in Uzbekistan, yes, there's always going to be Docky Who stuff going on there. So absolutely fantastic. Ange, good on you, Ange. Give me some Baby Yoda. Excuse me, Ange. I just got to delete that comment, dude. And here she's gone. There you go. Very good. All right. So we're going to leave you to it. Don't forget on Monday night, we're going to be discussing Picard. Yes, we're going to that other Star franchise. Get a bit of pilchard action, which would be very, very groovy. So see what Aaron and I think of that show. And of course, in 2 weeks' time, Toys on Trial will be released as well. So make sure you tune in for that. We'll be more promos about it later on. But other than that, it's all been pretty good. Any final words from you?
No final words from me.
Very good. And may the dark side of the force be with you. Oh, there you go. All right, leave it to it. And if you do end up with an AT-AT, not an AT-ACT, in mint in box from 1980, keep it that way. It'll be worth millions in the future. All right, leave it to it, guys.
If you end up with an AT-AT, rip it out of the box.
Freaking out. Can I go back and just delete that comment? Oh, hang on. An AT-ACT? How's that pronounced again?
An AT-ACT.
Oh, God. Leave it to it, guys. Take care. We'll see you in a few days.
See you guys.